Hey everyone, today we're covering the astrology of August 2024 for all signs of the zodiac. So you can watch this video for your sun, moon, and rising, but first let's talk about what's happening in August. We have a Mercury retrograde. Mercury will retrograde and go direct all in August. We also have Venus changing signs 2 times, as well as a pretty big square between Jupiter and Saturn. So there's a lot going on this month. Of course, there's also the full and new moon, like always. And we're going to cover all of these events, but we're going to cover them for your sign. So you can go to that part of the video. There will be timestamps below, and we're covering from Aries all the way to Pisces. You can watch your sun, moon, and rising, but keep in mind that your rising sign tends to be more accurate, and the sun and moon are like supplemental. So that being said, let's get into the video starting with Aries. So for Aries, we're going to start the month off with a new moon in Leo in your 5th house of creativity, self-expression, fun. Aries, you got a new moon in the fun house. So this is nice. Keep in mind though that the date of the new moon is not the day to start the new thing. Okay, because the moon has no light. Light equals power, but it's a good time to consider and set intentions for what you'd like to begin in your creativity when it comes to your self-employment. If you're self-employed, if you have kids, this will be with your children. But for all Aries, it's a new beginning in your self-expression, how you impart your own creative life force energy onto the world, how you bring it into being. That is all about that 5th house. So there might be new hobbies, new interests, new pleasures. For single Aries, this could be a good time to be open to new love, and especially the romance side of this, because when your new moon is in the 5th house, it's like it brings energy and light and focus on this area. So this is a good time, again, to set intentions for what you want to create, what you want to make possible, what you want, if you want kids, or if you want to support things related to your kids, if you want to take your creative passion and whatever you want to do with it, this is the time to really put some energy into that, because the sun's there, illuminating that. Now, on the same day, August 4th, Venus enters Virgo in your 6th house. So Venus has been in your 5th house at the end of July, really bringing, again, also more emphasis or energy or ability to receive to your 5th house of pleasure, fun, enjoyment, and again, creative energy, life force energy. So Venus entering Virgo in your 6th house might bring more of an ability to kind of like, it's like enjoying your chores. It's like having someone help you do the things you don't want to do, having nicer cleaning tools, or, something else that makes it easier or more pleasant to get things done. This could be you find just the perfect playlist while you're working away. This could be something nice in your work environment where you have a nice coworker or something makes your workload easier in some way. So look for ways to make your problem solving of your daily life more pleasant. Look for ways to receive when it comes to just help with the general things you got to deal with, the chores and the duties and the responsibilities of everyday life. For some people, Venus entering that 6th house, it can have to do with your diet getting sweeter, although that might not be everyone. But Venus does rule your money house and your relationship house. So it really means like your resources, whether it be other people or whether it be your finances, are getting put toward problem solving and getting things done. And, your chores, your daily routine, it's like you invest in a blender because you want to eat healthy or other things like that, so you're investing your time and energy around the 4th into those kind of activities. So let's go on now to the next event, which is still around the same time. So we're still on August 4th. Mercury goes retrograde in Virgo, which is your 6th house, again, of your chores, your work schedule, your health, your daily routines, your diet. And so Mercury going retrograde here is going to put some question marks around how are you spending your time, how much time in your life is focused on solving problems, and how much time in your life is focused on what you want to be creating. Because in the sixth house, this is where we kind of lose a bit of energy, because our energy is going to things like paying our bills or cleaning our house or, getting the gutters done or, going to the doctor, things that feel kind of like time wasters, but you still have to do them because if you don't, you have problems. So that being said, Mercury ruling your third and sixth house, the sixth house ruler going retrograde in the sixth house is, again, putting a big question mark on how you spend your time, what you're spending it on, and what you could be doing instead. And let me see. I will have another video just about this Mercury retrograde, so be sure to check that out if you want more on how to work with a timeline on that. So let's go now to the 19th of August, where we have the full moon in Aquarius. Yes. So the full moon in Aquarius is going to be in your 11th house. Friends, networking, social networks, the people you are connected to, acquaintances, colleagues, coworkers, any group of people you might see in public. These could be your good friends. It could also be people you don't know, the crowd you go to, your audience. So having a full moon in this area, with that new moon in Leo, of course, earlier in the month, is like releasing. For some Aries, this is about releasing what people think so you can create what you want to create in the way that is unique and true to you. So what I mean here is the 11th house, when I think of like evolutionary astrology and past lives, I think of being the king and having to give the people what they want. And so that full moon in Aquarius in the 11th is letting go of the energy of I have to do X, Y, and Z or everyone else will be mad in ways that it is not helping or not useful. So it can be something like that. It can also be a release or a change or a culmination of friends and, the friends that you belong to. So there could be some energy around either, like a big to-do that's like a big party or a big, culmination, right? Because the full moon isn't just time to release. It's like the highest point before the release happens. So again, a big party, a big event with friends, a big event with colleagues, something focused on groups of people that after it happens, after the 19th begins to wind down. So now let's talk about the Jupiter-Saturn square. This is also happening August 19th, and Jupiter in Gemini will square Saturn in Pisces, and they're going to be at 17 degrees. This is going to affect you more if you have personal planets at 17 degrees of the mutable signs of Sagittarius, Pisces, Virgo, or Gemini, or planets near there, or if that's like your sun, moon, or rising. But for Aries, Jupiter's in your third house, while Saturn is in that 12th house of Pisces. So having Jupiter and Saturn square for you in the third and 12th houses really feels like it might be slightly psychological, and there might be challenges related to things happening in your immediate environment that feel like it's almost like local opportunities cause you stress, or some kind of opportunity in your third house of like your local neighborhood, where you live, your neighbors, the people you're around on a regular basis, the places you go. There's some kind of growth, there's some kind of need for more. But Saturn in the 12th is saying, no, we need to meditate. We need to be by ourselves. We need to be in isolation. So it could be the opportunities to learn or take new classes or enjoy new things in your local environment. There's something about your need for quiet or your need for to reflect on things that maybe one of those needs might not be being met, or vice versa, where it's like, oh, you want to be doing all the things and you can't because something happens and I think of like when someone has like a broken bone or something, and it's like you can't go to all the classes when you're healing from surgery or something. Do not think that means you're all having surgery. It's just that Saturn in that 12th house really can be something where you're more isolated than you want to be, or you're having to grow in your local environment, but you can't do as much, or it's somehow still isolating in some way. So that is what I have for that event on August 19th for Aries. So now let's go to when Mercury goes direct in Leo. That's going to be on August 28th, and that is in your 5th house. Mercury rules your 3rd and your 6th house. So now Mercury is moving forward again. Now we have that direct motion of being able to kind of go forward with a new plan related to your creativity, your self-expression that you are probably considering back around the 4th of August during that new moon. Now, don't think that means you have to wait until this time to take any action, but that you might find that you have the clarity that you need to take the next steps in this area at this time. And because Mercury rules your 6th house as well, this makes me feel like it's almost like infusing more fun into your daily schedule, or solving problems that allow you to have more joy or more creative potency in the things that you're doing on a regular basis. Maybe some Aries out there are getting an assistant who can help them do things, so they're not spending as much of their time on the day-to-day challenges. Maybe you get your kids to start making their bed so you don't have to do that anymore. It can be anything you're doing on a regular basis that you've realized either you can be free of it or you can infuse fun and joy into it now. So then on August 29th, as we get toward the end of the month, we have Venus entering Libra for Aries. That'll be your 7th house of relationships. So I like this transit for you, Aries, because it's the relationship planet in the relationship house, and it's Venus, and it's Venus rules love. And so for those of you who are single, it might be a time where you just have more joy in the relationships that you have. And this might be a time where you're flirting more, if that applies to you, if you're in this stage of life where that would make sense. For others, it could just sweeten up your relationships. It can just be that one of your friends gives you a present, right? It can be some kind of gift or some kind of enjoyment, something soft and easy that comes into your relationships. Now, because Venus also rules your 2nd house of money, for some Aries, this is you giving gifts to your lover or giving gifts to your significant other. It might be you contributing to the relationship to make it better. It might be you buying a new couch that they want, or you buying a piece of art, or you buying something that makes the relationship, or providing something that makes the relationship sweeter. And that can go any which way. So just think about how that might apply to you. It doesn't mean you have to go out and do that, but sometimes wherever our 2nd ruler is, that planet that rules our 2nd house, that's the money planet. So it tells us kind of like what we're spending our money on, or what, it doesn't mean you have to go do that, but what we're investing in during that time. So there's an investment into relationships. And again, that could be a love relationship, but the 7th house is also partnerships. So it's long-term friends, and it's also like business partners. So overall for Aries, we're looking at a month of lots of new possibilities when it comes to your creativity, some question marks around how you're spending your time, and maybe some needs to adjust. What your schedule is, or what your routine is, or where you go on a regular basis to make things more aligned or more functional. And then we have that, that Jupiter squaring Saturn, bringing out some questions related to, again, time. This month is all about your time. How do you spend your time? How much time are you getting away to deal with things? And how much time are you spending with other people, or investing in projects and things like that? So that is what I have for Aries. Let me know in a comment if it resonates. And let's move on now to our next sign, which is going to be Taurus. For Taurus, the new moon in Leo on August 4th is happening in your 4th house of home, family. This can be where you live. It can also be your emotional foundations, or something happening with your actual family. And that can be your family of origin, like your parents, or it can be your family that you have now, just depending. So, new moon in your 4th house of home means new beginnings when it comes to what home means to you, what feels like home, or making your home more comfortable, that kind of thing. It doesn't always mean you're moving. It can be, but usually during the new moon, remember, this is where you kind of plant the seeds. It's a good time to set intentions for either things you want to do in your house, changes you want to make to like your home, your decorating to make it feel more like a home. Or if you do want to move, it's a great time to set intentions for that. Not the best time to actually like do the thing, because you need a couple days before there's enough strength, because the new moon is dark, right? There's no light. So there still is focus though, right? Because the sun is going to illuminate that house. So the sun is illuminating your home, your foundations, your roots, what makes you feel okay. So you might either have more focus at this time on how you are feeling, whether you are comfortable in your life right now or not. And you might also have more focus at this time on what you want to do with your physical home. So on the same day, Venus enters Virgo in your 5th house. So we're still on August 4th. And so Venus in Virgo is going to bring more focus into your creativity, but in a way that it might bring more of a need to make it a little bit better, right? Because Venus in Virgo sort of wants to make things perfect, wants to get into the details, wants to make it all good. And you know, this was someone's natal placement. They're going to want to create things that are perfect. You know, they're going to want to work harder and always be improving. So Venus in Virgo in your 5th house might bring a desire to improve something about your relationships, your dating life, your creative passion, especially if you're someone who's like an artist or something, an artist or you're self-employed, where you're using your life force energy and you're creating things on a daily basis in your work or in your life. Venus in Virgo might just be here like, let's put out the content, you know, let's do the thing, let's make the art, let's write the songs. Or it can also even be, let's go through the manuscript and edit all the details, right? So it can be either one of those things. Venus is also ruling your 6th house, and your 6th house is like what you do every day, the problems that you're solving, the work that you're doing, the chores that you have to take care of. So it does feel like there might be something in your 5th house, so that can be like kids, it can be like, again, creative things that you need to tend to, and that either they become like a chore or you're treating them like they are like a thing that you have to get done. You know, it's like going beyond just, oh, I'm writing this song because I feel like it. It's like, okay, I'm making the album now. So we need to pare down the songs we don't want, you know, and apply this to whatever you're doing. Of course, you're not all writing songs, but for Taurus, there's this energy around perfecting a labor of love, or helping your kids get better if you're a parent, or this energy might show up in your own dating life where you're trying to perfect the outfits that you're going to wear on dates or something, however that applies. But there is going to be focus on that 5th house of creativity and your life force energy. So immediately, this does feel like a month where your own authenticity is going to be a factor, and really focusing on, you know, what's aligned for you and what's feeling like it's really who you are. Especially if you consider the next thing happening. This is late August 4th in Pacific time, early on the 5th in most other time zones. But either way, it's Mercury going retrograde in Virgo, and that's in your 5th house. So that's your 5th house ruler, you know, of your self-expression, your creativity, your life force energy, your kids going retrograde. So time to rethink things related to all those topics. Plus it also rules your money house. So time to rethink that as well as money, and really focus on what's not working kind of. So you might become more aware of ways that you have been, especially if you've been spending money on things that you enjoy a little too much. This would be a time where you're like, okay, I got to stop doing that. Or it can also have to do with if you are someone who is self-employed or you make money off your creativity. For Taurus, on the 4th of August, this can be about figuring out how it's going to actually be more profitable, kind of a thing. So those are some of the themes where we might see at this time. So now we're going down to August 19th with the next big event. We have 2 big events on the 19th. We have the full moon in Aquarius, and we have Jupiter square Saturn. So for Taurus, that full moon in Aquarius is your 10th house. So this can be a culmination, a focus on your 10th house, which is your career and your role in life. You might have a big push in your career at this time, or what your role is that you need to kind of show up and give a lot of energy to before it starts winding down. So remember, full moons are not endings necessarily, they're culminations. This is when the moon is the most fullest in light, which means it's the strongest and it's got the most power and the most stuff is going on. So it's not an ending in your career, it's more stuff going on. That maybe it's a culmination of something. Maybe, it's like a big event in your career or a big day on the 19th or around that time, some big days in your work life that then start to wind down again afterwards. So this would be a good time to release things, though, that you feel like aren't working for you when it comes to your 10th house of your work, especially, with that new moon in the 4th, full moon in the 10th. It kind of feels like maybe it's a time to focus a little bit more on work-life balance. And maybe that's what this new moon, full moon combo is giving to Taurus, is kind of showing you where, if you are overextending in career, where. Now, if you haven't been overextending in career, that's not for you, but you'll have to see what resonates and what applies to your life. So now let's talk about Jupiter squaring Saturn on the 19th for you. This is going to be, Jupiter is going to be in your, let me think about it. Yes, Jupiter's in your 2nd house, Saturn's in your 11th house. So, these are both money houses, first of all. So there could be, again, some questions about how you're spending your money, or questions about, how you make your money. Something that's allowing growth in your financial sector is maybe causing challenges in your friend sector. So this could be something like making more money, but you don't get to see your friends as much. It could be some kind of increase or some kind of gain financially that requires more of you, because where Saturn is, sometimes it requires more of us. So you have to step up to some responsibility in either your friend life or even your work life, where you're in charge of more people, or you're running things, or you're running a group project or something. You're taking responsibility in a group setting. Now that can be something like, let's just say you're an astrologer, you joined an astrologer association, and now you're on this committee, and maybe you don't get paid for it, but it's like a professional opportunity, something like that going on. But it's there might need to be some adjustments here, right? So it could be, let's say you've been doing that too much and you've been volunteering too much, you need to scale it back. Right? Because it's I'm not making enough actual money. Or it could go the other way where it's a time to give back, or it's a time to take on a commitment that, again, is not going to bring financial gain right away, but maybe it's a long-term thing. So other areas Jupiter rules are your 8th and 11th houses. Saturn rules your 9th and 10th. So it's it does feel like career responsibilities might bring more tension or more challenge or more to handle when it comes to groups of people. And it also does feel Jupiter ruling the 11th in the 11th is in the 2nd is this can actually be money from the work you've done. So this can actually be okay for Taurus, just kind of depending on what's going on. But I would say there's opportunities to make more money, but it might require restructuring something, or taking on some kind of challenge related to your hopes and dreams, something maybe where you have to make a sacrifice, especially to maybe you have a dream that it has to take longer so that you can make more money now, or vice versa, something like that. So going on now to the next event for Taurus, for all of us, but for you guys, is the Mercury is going direct in Leo. That's going to happen on August 28th, and that is in your 4th house of home. So we have more energy here in your 4th house again. So it's all about what feels like home, what's going on with work, what's going on with money. Are you in alignment with the work that you're doing? For some Taurus, this will be physical, and you're you buy art for your house, or you buy a new couch, or you decorate it differently, or you do something that's focusing on the physical energy inside the home. For others, this might be more family dynamic stuff, where it's switching around when you take the kids to the park so that you can do your work on a certain day or something like that. But because Mercury rules your second house and your fifth house, this does feel like more like you're investing into your home. You're investing energy or time or money or, something to make your home more comfortable or better. And it might just be investing your mental energy. It might be investing your mental energy into what makes you feel okay and doing more things that make you feel good, bringing more pleasure or happiness into your house or your home, or focusing on, how you're going to pay for all this stuff for your kids or something more, every day like that. So the last thing we have for August is Venus entering Libra. That's happening on the 29th, and it'll be happening in your 6th house of your daily habits, your routines, your work, your chores, the things you got to do. And because Venus rules you, this is a more important, the transits of Venus are more important for Taurus because you're a Taurus rising or sun or moon, and Venus is the ruler of Taurus. So it's like you're doing the chores, you're doing the work, you're doing more work for other people, you're focusing more on relationships, you're focusing on helping you solve your own problems or with other people, or you're helping the other people in your life solve their problems. This is a very, the 6th house is a very problem-solving oriented house. So it's like, your health is going a certain way, so you need to focus on making certain food. Or it is something like you got to pay your bills. Or I know the 2nd house is money, but the 6th house is like the day-to-day stuff that we just have to do that we don't get anything for. So you could be doing more dishes. Maybe you have family over this month and now you're cleaning everything up. It's like you don't really get anything back for that other than you just get to have the family over, right? So it's worth it, but it's the kind of stuff that just takes more from you. And so this can go, something light and easy like that, or something more extreme, where the family was over and they broke a window, so now you got to get the window fixed. Little things like this that are just kind of a part of our day-to-day life. So that's what I'm seeing for Venus entering Libra. Now, again, there can still be more focus on partnerships at this time because it is Venus in Libra. But because you're a Taurus and Libra rules that 6th whole sign house, it's more likely, it's almost like it gives you the ability to find the right people that can help you with stuff. So I would say after August 29th, especially if you're like looking for someone to help you with something aesthetic, or you're looking for like a designer, or you need someone to work with on something, this might be good energy to solve those kind of problems. It's like solving partnership related problems. So this could also be having conversations with the people in your life to, solve more emotional problems or interpersonal problems. Either way, for Taurus, for August, what I'm seeing are, a lot of focus on what's my authenticity, what is right for me, what's my voice, how am I feeling? Is my lifestyle making sense for my needs? Are my needs being taken care of? Or, for some Tauruses, it's taking care of the other people and having that nurturing energy. Either way, a lot of focus here on your home, how you're expressing yourself, whether you're being heard, whether you're being able to like fully bring your life force energy into the world, and then solving the problems that might be stopping that, as well as possibly some big stuff related to work or how you're showing up publicly this month. So that is what I have for Taurus, and we're going to move on to the next sign, which is Gemini. So August 2024 for Gemini, sun, moon, and rising. We're starting on August 4th. There is a new moon in Leo in your 3rd house. The 3rd house being your local environment. It can also be your siblings. And sometimes it can be learning new things, taking classes. But mostly it's your local environment. It's like a desire to focus in on the people around you. It's a desire to focus in on what you're learning. It's a desire to, especially considering there's going to be that full moon in the opposite sign, the 9th house. It's like maybe for those of you who want to teach, this would be focusing more on beginning to teach and teaching what you know. For some, it's about communicating what you know and answering the question, are you being heard? So remember, the 4th isn't the day to start the new thing. New moons are the quiet time where nothing's happening. It's this planting the seeds. So it's a good day to set intentions and visualize what you want to see when it comes to your communication, your day-to-day conversations with people. And for anyone who, your car or your transportation is an area of focus, that's another thing that the third house represents. Making little day trips or, the places you normally shop, that kind of stuff. So on the same day, Venus is entering Virgo in your fourth house of home, family, and your roots and your foundation. So this can put more emphasis on your family of origin. It can put more emphasis on your home life. That can be your physical home or how you feel at home in your own skin. So Venus being in Virgo, there in that fourth house, can also bring a desire to perfect this area because Virgo always wants to make things better. So because you naturally have this here, you might always want to make things better in your home, and Venus being there will make this process easier. So if you have been wanting to repair something or redecorate something or change or fix or update or clean or organize anything in your home, your room, this would be a time where, Venus will make that process easier. So Venus also rules your 12th and 5th houses. So your 5th house ruler in the 4th can be bringing more creativity into your home. You could have kids in your home that you either don't normally have, or your own kids are home more during this time. And then that 12th ruler in the 4th might give you more time or put more energy on kind of like really having some awareness, like almost enjoying the process of self-awareness, of seeing those things that maybe have been making life harder, or seeing how you have maybe been resisting something you want, having some clarity or it makes it easier to know and understand and feel those things that are kind of buried in the 12th house, which to me represents the things that we kind of don't normally see because they're hard to look at. So if you want to do some good self-development work, this would be a great time around August 4th, and 5th. And that leads us to our next event, which is Mercury going retrograde. This is on August 4th, late in Pacific time. So for some people, it's on the 5th, but Mercury goes retrograde in Virgo in your 4th house of home. So it's time to reevaluate, what does home mean to you? What does your house mean? Does it have the space and the energy you want it to have? And what feels like home to you? Do you feel like home in your own skin? Do you feel uncomfortable? Do you feel like you need to feel differently? Those are the kind of things that Mercury retrograde in that 4th house are going to bring up. So it's not just about, what conversations have I had? This is your internal conversation with you, because it's you, right? Mercury is you. You are in the 4th house. So you're at home more, or you're contemplating things more. You're thinking about your emotions more, and it's time to reevaluate. This would be a very good time for Gemini if you are a person who wants to look at your family dynamics, possibly with a qualified professional who can help you see the root cause of certain things that may be showing up now. This would actually be a lovely time to do this kind of thing, because it's reassessing something related to home. Now, if you already have a family, you might be reassessing the roles of the people in the family, or your role like that. If not, it can still be you. And even if you do, it can still be you kind of reassessing who you are a little bit. Who you are, what makes you you, what's your emotional foundation, what role do you have? It's like you thinking about yourself privately is kind of what I think of for this Mercury retrograde. All right, so the full moon in Aquarius, we're going to jump ahead now to August 19th. This is going to be in your 9th house. So this is a culmination of something happening related to 9th house stuff. This can be travel, it can be education, it can be astrology or spirituality. The 9th house is the house of God, which, by the way, I have a new course on, so check that out in the description. But that full moon in Aquarius is going to be a culmination of your spiritual practice, possibly knowledge or information or insight. You might get some spiritual insight around this time. If you want to, that's something you want, especially if you're trying to understand the will of the universe for you, that kind of thing, then the full moon in Aquarius can really bring emphasis and energy and awareness around your spiritual path around the 19th. Also on the 19th, we have Jupiter squaring Saturn. So Jupiter in your first house of Gemini squaring Saturn in your 10th house of Pisces. So this is new opportunities. Your desire for growth is being stressed or being challenged by your work role, your role in work, your responsibilities, your public or professional responsibilities. So this could be that you can't be yourself at work, or it can be that you have this new great opportunity. It just requires a lot of sacrifice. But the sacrifice isn't happening like, how do I explain it? It's not Saturn in the first house where you're just like have to do a million things. Saturn in the 10th house tends to be a better transit because Saturn goes there. Saturn likes that place. The 10th house is about the work that we do in the world, and Saturn wants to do work in the world, right? Saturn wants to sacrifice. So there can be this energy of sacrificing in your job, but it might be for something that is totally worth it. And that Jupiter in the first might be something where you have to withhold the benefits of something you want to do in your work life and you don't get the personal benefits yet. Or it could be that you have to take on more work, but you don't get the identity of it yet, or you do get the identity of it. And now your role and your responsibility in life in general just got bigger. Your plate just got bigger. So Jupiter is going to actually, even though it's a square between Jupiter and Saturn, Jupiter will try to help the Saturn challenge. So whatever restriction or stress or difficulty or high level of responsibility you might have in your work life, your Jupiter in the first is going to make you more able to handle it. So this might be a time where you just take on new things, you take on new projects are assigned to you, and you can handle them. You find the tools. Jupiter and Gemini in the first is like, you're going to multitask in all the ways to be able to like step up to the challenge and overcome it. Now, Jupiter also rules your 7th house as well as your 10th house. So it's almost like maybe you have the help, maybe you get a new project, but then you get the team with it. Or you have a coworker or manager who's super helpful to like make it better or make it possible to resolve whatever, the quote unquote problem is. It might not be a huge problem. It might just be like a challenge. So then for you, Saturn also rules your 8th and 9th houses. So there might be something going on with, especially since that full moon in Aquarius, something about something you believe that is being either directly challenged by your work life or something like that, something like you have this focus on new spirituality, or maybe you learn something new that you're using in your career. There's other ways this could show up, right? The 9th house is also travel, but those are like the bigger energies, right? Remember, it's a general reading. Okay, on August 28th, Mercury goes direct in Leo. There is going to be a separate video about the Mercury situation. I highly recommend watching that because it will tell you when the Cazimi moment is, and that's one of the most important things to know. And it tells you everything about how to use that Mercury retrograde to your advantage. So Mercury goes direct for you in Leo in the 3rd house of communication, what you're learning, how you're expressing yourself. So definitely feeling on August 28th that you're able to express, you're able to communicate and be heard. And maybe it wasn't that you were trying not to before, but that somehow the energy shifts so that now you can be heard. Now you can express yourself. Now you can talk again. Maybe, I don't know, maybe some of you Geminis lose your voice this month, or you're in a role where you're not allowed to speak up and you're like, you're a lower level, when you're a lower level person at the meeting and you can't like run the show. I don't know, something feels like it frees up around the 28th. Apply it to whatever makes sense to you. Maybe you've been working on finding a new angle on something, and now on the 28th, the new angle is here. Maybe you have a friend you always talk to and now they're back, so it can be anything where from around the 4th until around the 28th, we see a going more internal with communication. It doesn't mean you're not talking as much, but it does feel like something might be resolved in terms of your self-expression and and how you are communicating. So depending on how much you use Mercury in your daily life, if you're a writer, if you're a copywriter, if you work in shipping and receiving, if you do a Mercury type job, well, this is going to affect you a lot more in your work. Like maybe you went and re-edited a book and now you're putting it out, or maybe you learned some new writing skills and now you're using them, or a million other things. But it does feel like, even talking about it, I'm like, is how I feel about Geminis on August 28th. So that's really the best way to put it. Now let's talk about the last thing we're going to cover for August, which is the 29th, when Venus enters Libra. This is going to be in your 5th house. And I love this transit for you because, Venus is at home in Libra, and the 5th house is about harmony. And it's not about harmony. Venus is about harmony. The 5th house is about pleasure, right? So it matches so nicely. And, it's like the pleasure planet's in the pleasure house. So what do we get? We get something enjoyable. This could be a nice little dating experience. This can be some romance in the relationship you already are in. This could be something non-romantic that brings you joy and makes you happy. This can be just a time where you're going out more. And if you haven't been having a whole lot of fun lately, Gemini, I would say, August 29th rolls around, might be a time to just go do the thing that you want to do. If you have been wanting to paint, go paint. If you have been wanting to watch a certain movie, if you have been wanting to go to a certain place that's lovely, that has a nice environment, go do all of those things, or stay home and do all those things you want to do at home. It's really a nice time to enjoy yourself, to enjoy a scene or enjoy a movie or take something in, or enjoy a lovely conversation with a gorgeous person or a lovely person who you like being around. So definitely a good time to have more fun. And if this isn't that, it could be you exploring a new hobby and doing that a little bit more. It could be you getting ideas in your business, because the 5th house rules self-employment. So if you're self-employed, Venus going through that 5th house is a good time to get paid, but it's also a good time to just kind of enjoy your work. So if there's aspects of your work or your life that you find that are so much better if you're happy. Like for me, if I'm happy on a video, it's going to do so much better than a video where I'm stressed that day. It doesn't mean I don't do videos when I'm stressed, but if I know I want to make the best video ever, I try to get good sleep. I try to make sure I'm happy, right? So for you Geminis, if there's something in your life that you do better when you're feeling good or when you're happy, I might consider, adding more of those activities closer to the end of the month when Venus does enter that 5th house. It does have the potential to bring something positive. This doesn't guarantee, this doesn't guarantee that everything in your life will go smoothly on this day, but that, Venus will make that 5th house of fun better. So even if you're having other problems, you still might have more fun dealing with them. So we have to remember, it's just one planet in the whole chart, right? Okay, and then plus Venus ruling the 12th house, though, and this will be the last thing, might bring a psychological activity into. It's almost like psychological fears. You might face a fear of something you enjoy this day, or this might be a good day to do that. Let's say you want to go do Toastmasters, but you're afraid to. August 29th, August 30th, this would be a really good time, because the 12th house is like where we self-sabotage, the things we don't see, how we work against ourselves. And that planet in the 5th house of pleasure is like you can actually learn more about how you self-sabotage something you want to do could be a topic. Now, if you're not self-sabotaging, that's not going to be as loud, right? So it kind of depends. If you've been knowing you want to sell something, you want to sell your paintings, for example, just apply this to what fits. The 29th and 30th, it's like focus on that. Focus on getting over that. Focus on overcoming that, because Venus will bring more ease in dealing with a problem. It's like Mary Poppins, right? The spoonful of sugar that helps the medicine go down. Okay, so that is what I have for Gemini, you guys, this month. There's going to be a lot going on, which I feel like you guys probably are going to like, but it's all about how are you expressing yourself? Are you being heard? Do you need to get new skills to communicate in a different way? Do you need to find out how someone else needs to hear something in order for it to make sense? Your spirituality is in focus, your role in life and your just role in the world and who you are is in focus. What you're doing with your life is in focus. Having fun is in focus. Lots of things going on this month. I think it'll have a lot of variety, and don't be scared of Mercury retrograde. If you want more on that, watch my video, and we're going to move on to the next sign, which is going to be Cancer. For Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising, the first event in August we have is that new moon in Leo happening in your second house, which is your money house. So around August 4th, there is a focus on planting seeds and a new beginning related to your money, related to what you have, what you own. This doesn't necessarily mean you're going out and getting a new job or something, but there's focus on bringing in more or setting intentions for how you would like your life when it comes to your money or your physical things to be different, or just simply more focus on that area, growing new things, growing your account, growing your business, growing your savings, whatever it is that you're focusing on, growing the amount of furniture you have, whatever you've got. It can be a focus on buying stuff and really what are you spending your money on and what are you investing in. So that day, August 4th, is a good time to set intentions for those types of things. It's not the day to start the new job. That would happen a few days later, but it's the day to really get quiet and listen to what you want in that area, in those areas. So on the same day, Venus enters Virgo in your third house. So that's going to bring a focus on how you communicate. It's going to bring a focus on, especially talking to friends, because Venus is your 11th house ruler. So it can be friends coming to visit you. It could be you calling friends who are further away, or planning events or doing things where you're going to be talking to more people. And Venus also rules your fourth house of home. So this could just be a time, during the month from the 4th until about, I think it's the 28th, where you're just having more conversations with your family. Your parents are calling you more. Your friends are calling you more. Your colleagues are talking to you more. There's a need to have more conversations. There can also be some focus on enjoying your local environment. This can be just going to your favorite grocery store, or it can be, stopping at places that you like stopping on your way home. It can be going on little trips or, doing an outing at some point. Venus will bring more ease to your local environment, and that's going to depend on who you are. So let's say there's been construction. Possibly, maybe the construction goes away or something. Or you get good headphones and you can ignore the construction. I don't know. But it's not going to be that for everyone. It's just the general energy of your day-to-day commute might be easier. Your day-to-day conversations might be more lovely or more enjoyable. Or, that can also be what you listen to. You're listening to music, or you're listening to a podcast. You just found your favorite podcast. Maybe you just found this channel. Anyway, let's go on to the next thing, which is Mercury retrograde in Virgo in the third house. That's going to also happen on August 4th. So even though Venus brings more joy to the situation, Mercury makes us go, wait, what's going on? What's going on with our communication? And because Mercury rules your 12th house as well as the third, there's more of a feeling of what's going on behind the surface, what's going on subconsciously. So Cancers out there might actually be wondering, what is going on? This person is saying this to me. What do they mean? Maybe there's some undertones in your conversations in your life that you're wanting to get to the bottom of or wanting to understand. Maybe there's some things like that happening here. Either way, it's a good time to either talk it out or journal it out with Mercury retrograde in Virgo in the third. And you just might be questioning how your commute is, how you're doing things, how you're communicating, how you're talking to people. Now, the full moon in Aquarius is going to happen on the 19th of August, and that's going to be in your 8th house of shared resources. It's the house of sex, death, and other people's money. It's the house of transformation. So a full moon in that 8th house can be a culmination of intimacy in a relationship where it gets to the biggest level it will be before it winds down a little bit. It can also be maybe a need to let go of something. Sometimes that 8th house, if you have debt, this could be you focusing on maybe your debt has grown and now you're ready to release it. If that doesn't apply to you, then you'll know. You'll know whether you have debt or not. It might be investment accounts. It might be money you make from royalties that has grown. Maybe let's say you wrote a song and you got royalties on it and then it's grown. And now is like the time where it's the most popular. Apply this to whatever is active in your life when it comes to other people's money or, money you have made through work in partnership with people, right? Like songwriting with a co-writer or like, investment accounts or things where you put money together or you pool together resources to make something and you're selling something and someone else gets a part of the profit or something. Or you can also apply that full moon in Aquarius if you are someone who has a partner who you guys share resources, you share bills and responsibilities, then it can also be that where there's a culmination there of maybe your partner's money if you're in a relationship. It doesn't mean their money's going to start disappearing, but maybe you guys have spent the most that you can and now you got to rein it back in. Or maybe like something like that, right? So there's like a bigness and a fullness and a focus on debt, who's paying what, whose money, mine or yours. So things like that are the most likely to show up at that 8th house. Now going on to the same day, the 19th, we have Jupiter squaring Saturn. So Jupiter rules your 12th house. Jupiter is in your 12th house of Gemini and Saturn is in your 9th house. So Jupiter in the 12th can bring growth, but it's growth that you don't really see. So it's like talking to your spirit guides, or it's getting faith, or it's getting better at meditating, having them be wonderful. So while Jupiter is in Gemini, which is like through next spring, it's a good time to focus on growing your own spiritual life, your own psychological well-being, and recovery if you're in recovery for anything. Not that, people in recovery always want to, but it's like you can really grow and glean a lot from things that it's like you're looking at things that are negative or looking at challenges and trying to solve them. Jupiter helps you. Now, Saturn in the 9th might make something harder to believe in, though. So it's almost like Jupiter is saying, yes, believe in this invisible spirit guide, and Saturn saying, no, it's not real. Now other ways this can show up so many ways, but there's probably going to be some tension between either your beliefs or a group that you belong to who has a really strong belief system, if you do, versus your own private experience. So it's almost like if you go to church and they say, I don't know, they say you can't meditate, but then you're meditating and you're like, but this is so cool and it's real, right? Apply this to your life and what makes sense for you. But you might be having private experiences with spirituality that don't align with what you've been taught. There might be some tension here between your beliefs and the ways that you're growing at this time and the need to kind of hash that out a little bit. Jupiter in the 12th house is going to help. So if you have a therapist or a sponsor or someone who helps you look at difficult things, that person might actually be helping you walk through some things that are just kind of difficult when it comes to your belief systems. Okay, so going on now to the next thing for Cancer, which is on August 28th, we have Mercury going direct in Leo. So that's going to happen in your 2nd house, so more focus on money. But this time, it's like maybe now you have the plan and you can put the plan into place. Throughout this month, it's been the question of what are we spending on? Why are we spending? What's our plan going forward? How are we going to make this work? Whatever it is. Or how we're going to buy this thing, and now you've figured out how you're going to buy the thing. So I do think that on August 28th, there's a freed up feeling related to communication, relating to money. And it doesn't necessarily mean like now you're going to go off the rails and spend it all. But but maybe there's more of a solid plan going forward. Maybe there's a process you can follow now that you didn't have before. Maybe now you're going to save X amount of dollars. You got the savings account open and you're going to put more into it, something like that where there's a new approach toward money, toward financial stuff, or towards the things that you have and that you own, that to me feels like you're being a little more freed up here. So now going on to the last event we're going to talk about for the month, which is August 29th. We have Venus entering Libra in your 4th house of home. So this really does bring more ease and pleasure into the home. This could be because you bought your favorite wine, if you drink, or it could be because you got your favorite new painting on the wall, or maybe, with that Mercury going direct, you really did buy something for your home that now you're enjoying. Now you can just sit at home and enjoy it. But for others of you, it doesn't have to be a physical thing that you got. It could be a person who's coming over more. It can be something that makes you feel more comfortable in your own skin, that just brings a little bit of ease or pleasure or enjoyment into your quiet time and your alone time. Because the 4th house isn't just the home, it's also our private life, right? Who we are when we get home and we shut the door and the public doesn't see it. And Venus is there making it better. So something making your alone time better, making your private life, maybe it's your actual bedroom, again, more enjoyable, more pleasure, and more fun. It could also be a party, it could be you have friends over. It could be something nice and social, right? Because Venus in Libra is very social. It rules your 11th house of friends and communities, connections, people. So it could be you have an event at your house. It could be you have a dinner party, or you have something where your coworkers come over or something. So that's another way that can show up. Either way, that time is a good time to enjoy your home and make it pretty, make it beautiful, and put the music you want on and make it smell like you want and all that stuff. So overall, Cancer, the month of August, I'm really seeing that focus on money and values, focus on communication, maybe some stuff going on with other people's resources, or maybe a need to change in some way that's highlighted. Something going on with beliefs around mid-month that has to be worked through a little bit, but there's, relying on the guidance that you have that's either behind the scenes or that's other people don't see, but it's there. There's help and there's support. And then, again, focusing on who you are at home, who you are behind closed doors, and looking at that path ahead for yourself by the end of the month financially. So that is what I see happening in August for Cancer. Let me know in a comment if it resonated, and we're going to go on to the next sign now, which is Leo. For Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising, this new moon is happening in your 1st house of you. So the new moon in August is on the 4th. Again, it's in your 1st house. So we've got this emphasis on new beginnings in your life. Now remember that the 4th of August is not the time to go start the new thing unless it's already on schedule. It's the time to think about and reflect and set intentions on who you are and who you want to be. Who are you versus who you want to be? And is there a disconnect? And what needs to change to live your life the way you want, to live where you want, to be with who you want, to be doing what you want? And what is true for you, right? So then on the same day, we have Venus entering Virgo in your 2nd house of money. So Venus in the money house is usually kind of nice, especially ruling your 10th house of career. So sometimes this will be a time where you do make money from the work that you do. And it also rules your 3rd house of your local environment. So it does feel like you can get money. If you are someone who has their own business, this could be a time where you could be selling things locally somehow, and that somehow, or networking with the people around you to make money. It can be that. It can also be that your work gives you a bonus or gives you a chance for overtime or something like that, just depending on what your role is. Benefiting you financially. The work that you're doing having the potential to benefit you financially, and the 3rd house stuff you're doing, like the conversations you're having or marketing, or if you're emailing people and trying to sell stuff, whatever you're doing that has to do with writing or speaking, possibly also benefiting you financially. So it doesn't guarantee lottery wins or anything like that, but that these are the areas of life that can most easily bring you ease or money. It could be your boss gives you a new thing, like gives you a present or something, and now you have a thing that your boss gave you. Either way, we also have Mercury going retrograde in Virgo. Now this is late on August 4th in Pacific time. So some places it's the 5th, but it's in your second house. So there is focus on receiving money and then also figuring out what you need to redo, reschedule, reassess, change up or fix or correct or approach differently related to your financial life and related to what you have and what you own. So it can be something like you own something that costs you a lot of money to maintain and you're questioning if you want to keep that thing, or you're looking at what you're doing versus your expenses and you're kind of seeing where things aren't quite where you want them to be, or something comes along that requires a change or an adjustment to the finances. Now, Mercury rules your second house and your 11th house. So this is a strong month for money in the beginning of the month for Leo because it's your money planet in the money house going retrograde. Does this mean you're going to lose a bunch of money? Not necessarily. It's more like maybe you'll realize if you have been operating at a loss. You'll realize if the business didn't make enough last month, or you'll realize that where there's a need to change. And that need to change might just be right on schedule. It might be something positive like, now I'm fully booked with one-on-ones, now I need to scale, right? So that there could be other ways. Apply this to what fits for you. Now going on to the next big event, which is the full moon in Aquarius on the 19th. That's going to be in your 7th house of relationships. Remember that the 7th house isn't just your significant other. If you have a significant other, yes, the 7th house is that. But if you have a full moon in your 7th house and you're single, it doesn't mean relationship. It means focus and a culmination on the relationships that you have, especially the more serious ones or the more ones you're more connected to. So that full moon in that 7th house can bring a highlight of just focusing on who am I around, what is going on in my relationships, and putting energy toward a relationship, whether it is a significant other or maybe a good friend. Or clients go in the 7th house, one-on-one clients. Okay, so then another thing happening the same day is we have Jupiter squaring Saturn. So Jupiter in your 11th house of Gemini is squaring Saturn in your 8th house of Pisces. So Jupiter in the 11th is wonderful because it's like chances to meet new people and socialize. That's going to be through next spring. If you're trying to grow your audience or your network, Leo, this is the time to do it. If you want to make more friends, if you want to get more connected, really, really good time for growth. That only happens, it's 1 year out of 12. So you want to take advantage of whatever Jupiter is helping you grow, right? Because it'll grow faster. Now, the square to the 8th house, sometimes this is money issues with friends. Sometimes it is your intimate partner and your friends. There's some kind of disconnect or challenge here. But with Saturn in the 8th house, sometimes this is paying off debt, right? So it's almost like maybe Jupiter in the 11th is helping you grow your money, but then it's just going straight to paying off debt, or your growth isn't enough to pay off enough of the debt, or there's some kind of, there's some kind of challenge here with what's growing in your 11th house. So your social commitments, your social life, your friends, your audience, and your 8th house of like shared resources. So this could go the other way where like someone loaned you something to use on your podcast or something. But with Saturn in the 8th, oftentimes, this is a longer transit. It's 2.5 years. It makes it usually harder to rely on other people's income. So if you, before this transit, now this was a while ago, right? Because Saturn entered Pisces back in March of 2023, right? So we've had over a year of this energy of not being able to rely on other people's resources anymore. And so we might be having a stress test here, or a pressure point of that kind of energy showing us, like stretching us in a couple of directions, or feeling like we can't have the social life we want and spend the money we make the money we need, or something going on here. Okay, so then, and because Saturn rules your sixth house, it can also have to do with like the things that you like, having problems that put you in debt. Maybe you have like a fridge, your fridge goes out, you have to get another one, or something else like that, where there's a problem you have to solve where you need to borrow money, or a problem you have to solve that you have to put on the credit card. And then that stresses that 11th house of either the money you make from your audience, or sometimes the 11th can be money you make from the work you do, or something about social commitments. It's like, no, I can't go to the party anymore because I got to pay off this fridge that I just bought, right? Apply this to whatever fits for you. I don't think all Leos, your fridge is going to break, but these are the kind of examples of things that could happen. Now on August 28th, something more refreshing happens, which is Mercury going direct in Leo. So because this rules your second and 11th, again, this is all about money and resources and the ability to plan your next move based on money and resources. So maybe something comes through. Maybe you figure out how to work with the situation you're in. Maybe, it was a good thing that you created. Maybe you did get fully booked and now you have the plan to scale, right? So it doesn't have to be, you're reacting to something negative. It can actually be you've gotten yourself in such a place now that you're ready to handle the next level of your financial story, of your money story, and it does feel like there's some elevation here. Now, I don't like to promise things that are good in general readings because it's so personal when a good thing will happen or not. But especially for Leos out there who you're like, I am trying to elevate myself financially, which is a very Leo thing to want to do, right? This is going to be a time where at least you have the map, or at least you have a little more clarity on the next road you're going to go down to do that. And that's going to be different for everyone. So I like this for you. It's like a refreshing ability to have clarity on your life direction, how it relates to money and your goals. And then on the 29th, when Venus enters Libra, this is your third house of communication. And it's going to be, Venus rules that. So it's like the communication planet in the communication house. It's also about siblings though. So for Leos out there who your siblings are an important part of your life and you're connected with them, this can be a time where you enjoy your time with them, or they bring some kind of benefit, or they bring some kind of ease into your life. Maybe they babysit, maybe they buy your kids a toy, maybe you just have really good conversations with them and you're having fun around this time. Venus also rules your 10th house. So the 10th ruler in the third is almost like your job or your career somehow make something that you're doing every day in your environment better. Sometimes this is like because you get a good coworker, or your coworker's in a really good mood and they're just like buying you coffee, or they're just like so happy that it's easier and more fun to work with, or you get to work with depends on what you're doing every day. If you're working, it's like you get to work with a lovely client. If you're watching your kids, it's like they're just happier. If you're doing something else, just more enjoyment while you're doing it. Okay, Venus makes that third house of the errands you're running and the stuff you're doing every day, the conversations you're having every day with whoever it is, stranger, friend, whatever. It makes it sweeter. So I like that. I think that's a nice positive note to end on. So overall, what I see for Leos for August is we've got lots of money stuff, lots of, stuff about how are Leos going to be themselves? How are they going to go forward with the resources to live the life they're wanting to live? And, something going on in relationships that I wouldn't say it'll always bring more independence, but it does feel like, that first house and the 7th house are both highlighted for the month in different ways. So it's like, who are you to yourself and who are you for others? And that dynamic might get highlighted, especially if you have entanglements with people. This might be a month where entanglements being things where you're intermeshed with people, right? And it wouldn't be easy to unhook, right? There might be unhookings. There might be realization of where you want to hook with someone more, getting more connected or going deeper into a more intimate relationship with someone is also possible. And, lots of stuff going on with your communication or your siblings as well. So that's what I see for Leos. Let me know in a comment if it resonates. And we're going to go on to our next sign, which is Virgos. Okay, so for Virgos, when we are looking at August 2024, we're going to start on the 4th, which is going to be that new moon in Leo in the 12th house. So the new moon in the 12th house will put a spotlight and have you thinking on how much time alone are you getting? Are you shining the way you want to shine? Are you in a role where you are being seen? Are you in a role where you are invisible? How much attention do you want or not want? And if there's self-sabotage happening, it may or may not, but if there is, this would be a time where you're thinking about that as well, like how you can set yourself up to win. If things have not been happening that have let you win lately, how you can set yourself up so that you are kind of giving yourself a boost instead of setting yourself up to fail in certain ways. Like unconsciously, I mean. So you could also be focusing on your meditating or your spiritual life and bringing that into importance and focusing on how much time you have spent alone or how isolated you are or not, right? So maybe considering what you'd like. It's a good time to plant seeds for all these things on the 4th. How much time alone do you want? How much meditation do you want to be doing? How much attention do you want? How much privacy do you want? Those are all highlighted there. So then also on the 4th, Venus enters Virgo. That's your first house. It's a good time to take pictures. You tend to look and feel your most beautiful. You tend to be your most attractive during this time. So for single Virgos, that's good to know for relationships and stuff, but also for even if you're in a relationship, it might be a nice time to go on a date or to, love up on your partner. But Venus also rules your 2nd house and your 9th house. So this August 4th, you can also be thinking about, are you on your spiritual path when it comes to making money? And are you making money in a way that lets you be on your spiritual path? Are both things connecting to the other? And are they joining together? Are they separated? Sometimes with the 2nd ruler and the 1st, you might invest into yourself. You might make an investment into something that affects your body or your physicality. So it could be putting money into like doing your hair or getting new clothes, but it could also be investing into where you're going to go, where you're going to live. Buying a ticket to go somewhere might be happening on the 4th, especially since it's your 9th house ruler. So I'm going to be in this place that is different from where I normally am, could be happening. And then also on the 4th, this is happening at the end of the day, or for some people, it'll be the 5th early in the day, depending on where you live. We have Mercury going retrograde in Virgo. So for Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising, this is going to be a very big event for you because it's in your 1st house. Mercury rules you, but it also rules your 10th house. So this is questioning, am I taking the right steps to have the life that I want? Am I approaching my career in the way that I want it to? Is it going how I want? Do I have the role that I want? And some of it might be, am I making the money that I want? But this feels more like, do I have the life that I want? Do I have the structure in my life that I want? Am I doing the thing I want to be doing with my life? That's going to be the question. And usually during retrogrades, it's like, yeah, we're reassessing it, but it's like, we might be reviewing something that just happened. We might be reviewing the last quarter, for those who have businesses. We might be reviewing our role up until now and the jobs that we've had. And if it's not what we wanted it to be, what do we want it to be? These types of questions. And around the 4th or the 5th is the time to kind of allow the questioning, not to try to force the answer, because the real heart of the answer comes during the Kazemi. So watch my Mercury video for that. Now going on to the next big event for August, which is going to be the full moon in Aquarius. For Virgo, that's going to be in your 6th house of basically your problems, your chores, your diet. So the full moon in Aquarius illuminating that 6th house. If you haven't been eating how you want, you're going to feel that. If you've been really working hard on some kind of health routine or something, this might be a moment where that, comes into focus. And, remember that new moon was in the 12th house of like our privacy, our meditation, our psychology. But the full moon in the 6th on the 19th might just make you really busy, because the full moon isn't an ending. It's a culmination. It's like the biggest part of the wave, right? So the biggest part of the wave of focus in your 6th house, in your habits, in your work life, the work that you do to like, it's not always the money. Sometimes it's just the work. I don't know how else to explain it. It's like the work you put into to have a job that, yeah, if you don't do it, you don't get money, but it's like, sometimes it's chores. Sometimes it's you're getting ready for vacation and you got to pack everything. Sometimes it's a time where you're just way busier, and some of that busyness, it doesn't necessarily, it's like someone broke your window, you got to clean up the glass. That's a 6th house thing, is like putting energy into something that you just get back to regular. You don't get a whole like huge outcome. So this doesn't have to be bad though. It can just be a time where you've got a lot on your plate. You have a lot going on. Maybe you are consciously fixing problems, and that is good because you have the energy to direct toward that. It's like that 12th house energy at the beginning of the month is like calling you into solitude. And by the 19th, it's like calling you into life, calling you into action, calling you into service to yourself or others. So now we also have on the 19th of August, Jupiter squaring Saturn. So Jupiter in the 10th house, which is like more opportunities in career, more work to be done, more people to talk to, ooh, shiny, another podcast or something like that, depending on what kind of work you do, like more clients, more, squirrel. Like Gemini has that energy of like, a little bit all over the place with your work and doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And it can be really energizing when you have stuff to do. And it's squared by Saturn and Pisces in the 7th house of relationships. Now, is it possible a relationship is making it hard for you to do your work? Yes, but this doesn't really feel like what you're going to experience here. There can be some tension between family commitments or relationship commitments and work commitments, and you could just feel stretched in all directions. But even then, Jupiter in the 10th will make it better. So it's like, if you can just get the work done, you'll feel better and be able to be present with the family, or maybe there's some adjustments that need to be made with the commitments you made at work or the commitments you have to family, and you have to readjust things to, it's almost like if you take a vacation and you just have someone else answer the phones, it might not get done as well, but it's still like, you can't be working every day when you see your family or something, right? So it's like some kind of tension here. And it doesn't have to be huge. It could be you're working overtime and your partner's like, hey, you never spend time with me. And you have to get the partner to realize, just give me 2 weeks, or you got to just suck it up and go hang out with your partner, right? Just depending on the situation. But it's like, again, best case scenario, you're busy, your life is full, you got a lot going on, and it's just managing the different commitments. Worst case scenario, a really close friend or family member, you have a responsibility to them that makes it very hard to show up to work in the same way you normally would, or the way that you would like to be. It's almost like there's this opportunity to do a thing, and then the wife is sick and you have to watch the kid, or like your parent really needs you right now, or something else like that is you have to do, things like that. But it depends. So just, be willing to stretch a little. If you can give yourself more room to bend during the 19th, this would probably be good. But it does feel like life is going to be filled up and full during this time. So now we're going ahead to the 28th, where Mercury goes direct in Leo. Now this is your 12th house. So by this point, Mercury's gone back into your 12th house, made you aware of a bunch of psychological stuff, which came up on the 4th with the new moon of like, how am I sabotaging? Am I getting attention? And, am I getting the attention I need or deserve? Am I showing up as a leader? Am I showing up as someone who people want to follow if you're in a leadership position? Am I, stepping into my confidence? That might be another thing for Virgos this month. Am I stepping into my confidence? So when Mercury goes direct in Leo on the 28th, there might be more around this, but it's less of a question mark and more of a path ahead to look at, right? Who am I going to be going forward? How am I going to overcome my fears of speaking up or being the center of attention or being seen that I need to overcome in order to have the role in life I want to have, that kind of stuff. Now, it might not be being seen for you. It might be stepping up into a confident level of whatever you're doing, but it's like awareness of what's the problem in the life role and the work role, and a new path ahead or a new clarity, at least, on the next step of what that path ahead needs to look like. So then on the 29th, this will be the last thing for the month. Venus enters Libra. And I like this one for Virgos because Venus is your money planet and it's going into your money house. So it's all about your money goes into your money. It's usually a time where you can make money. It's usually a time where you can enjoy something. You might be enjoying something financial. You might be enjoying something that is a trip, like maybe you have a trip somewhere and you get to enjoy the food there, or you get to enjoy the ambiance, or, the second house is things. So it's almost like you take a trip and you enjoy your things somewhere else. and people, right? Because Venus and Libra, good conversations, partnership, sharing the bill at lunch with someone, covering their lunch, buying someone lunch, them buying you lunch, just going out with people and enjoying life, enjoying the scene, enjoying the food, enjoying the senses. And, it doesn't mean this takes over your whole life, right? This is just one planet at this time. But Venus and Libra, if you're someone who is, if money is a thing you think about, like I do, and like I think everyone does, Venus and Libra will tend to be a time where, you can make more money, or money things tend to go a little bit more easily. So you might not make more. You might just have an easier time making the same amount. Your job or your work, like Venus will bring ease to wherever it goes. So that does feel good to have some financial ease going on around the 29th. And that energy is going to carry into September. So overall for Virgos, we're looking at, there's a lot of 12th house and first house and second house stuff. So there's a lot of things wrapped up this month on who am I? What is my role? How much am I making? What do I get to have and enjoy in life? Is it where I want it to be? How are we showing up? And it's almost like the energy of this month of August for Virgos is quieting down in the beginning of August, letting it be okay, sitting with the energy for just a moment, right around the 4th. And then, it's like, then you get up and do the thing. It's like, I almost really get this feeling of like being a little, like the little bud of the flower, and then it blooms, right? First, it starts off like this. So if toward early August, you're feeling things have shut down or quieted down, or the energy is sort of crouching, or like, what's the word? Like not contained or confined, but like not open yet. Closed. If you feel yourself closed off or wanting to just shut down and hide away from outside energies, as long as you're not doing anything crazy or horrible, I feel like that's the natural energy of this month. And then the flower blooms. And then by the 19th, you're going to be like, holy cow, how did I even get this busy? And it doesn't feel like it's shutting back down, but it does feel like there's a blossoming and there's a becoming more open this month, and maybe stepping into things that are more enjoyable, like getting poised and then launching something, or getting poised and then receiving something. So that's kind of the overall energy I feel for Virgos. Let me know in a comment if it resonates, and we're going to go on to the next sign now, which is Libra. For Libra, the energy of August, we're starting on the 4th when we have the new moon in Leo. That is happening in your 11th house of friends, your audience, the people you spend time with, the public people you are around. So friends, acquaintances, anyone you would go see in a public place, that's your 11th house, including your audience if you have a social media. So you might be considering How are you showing up for others? How are you showing up for society? How are you showing up in groups? You might be thinking about starting something related to any of those topics around the 4th. Now, what also happens on the 4th is Venus enters Virgo. That's your 12th house. And because you're a Libra, you are ruled by Venus, right? So Venus is going to rule your 1st house and your 8th house. So when it comes to this time, you might be thinking about how you're showing up for others, but you might also be putting a lot of your focus into internal processes or psychological things, or figuring yourself out, or meditating, or, even going to a group thing where you're meditating, or just meditating or getting quiet with yourself, because it's like you're probably going to be a little bit more behind the scenes or a little bit more isolated than usual from August 4th all the way through the 29th, when Venus goes into your 1st house of Libra. So this isn't bad. It's just usually a quieter time. If you're looking at the year in perspective, it's just a quieter time in the year, or it's the time where you're focusing more on internal stuff. So it could be making time to work with a therapist, or making time to do 12-step work, or making time to do anything else, again, psychological, to figure yourself out around that time. Now, also on the same day, August 4th, at the end of the day, Pacific time, so this is the 5th for some people, Mercury goes retrograde in Virgo. So Mercury rules your 9th house and your 12th house. It's going retrograde in your 12th house. So this puts even more of a focus on 12th house stuff. So that's things like psychology, altered states of consciousness, meditation, things you only see if you take the time to get quiet and look. The things that are maybe sometimes hard to see, right? So sometimes it's hard to see that, like, we maybe were the cause of a thing that we didn't think we were. Sometimes it's hard this will just be a time, whether it's hard or not, it'll be a time where your focus is more naturally drawn to what you could have possibly done that was like the root cause of a challenge. Or if you keep having a pattern over and over, this might be a time where you're like, okay, what are we doing with this pattern? Like, what is really happening? Why do I keep having the same experience with X, Y, or Z? So it can be those kind of things where you're willing to sit down and take like a good hard look at something like that. Mercury also rules the 9th house. So Mercury retrograding your 12th house is also bringing topics of God and spiritual focus and your spiritual path into that 12th house. So it's like meditating on your own life and your own path. And it really does feel quite beautiful for a lot of Libras out there. So some of you, it might just be not because all these problems happen, but because like it just feels like the right thing to be doing right now. Now on the 19th, you have the full moon in Aquarius, bringing a culmination to your 5th house of pleasure, fun, dating, flirting, romance, but also creativity. So remember, full moons aren't endings, they're culmination. It's like the biggest part of the wave. So it's like there's a big wave, a big focus of energy in the 5th house of creation, life force energy, children, if you have them. If you don't have them, that's not it. It can be something, it can be your business, your self-employment. So it might be like things are quieting down earlier in the month, and then they get louder mid-month, right? By August 19th, it's you're with people, you're invested, you're having fun, you're creating stuff, you're doing things, you're doing a hobby. And a full moon in the fun house is nice because it's like a spotlight is put on pleasure and things that are enjoyable, and enjoying people and enjoying hobbies and maybe doing something new or something you've always done that you love. So there can be a lot of fun happening around the 19th. Now that's also the same day that Jupiter squares Saturn. So Jupiter in your 9th house of Gemini, squaring Saturn in your 6th house of Pisces. So Jupiter in the 9th is like opportunities for maybe studying something spiritual, or opportunities for joining with other people in their beliefs, doing group meditations, doing group spiritual stuff, or stuff that's religious if you're religious. Now, 6th house is like chores you have to do, problems you have to overcome. Work becomes harder sometimes when Saturn's in the 6th. Sometimes you have health problems that you have to deal with when Saturn's in the 6th, and it's not like Saturn is going to make you have a health problem on this day. But if you've already been challenged with health, this might be a time where that challenge, that 6th house challenge, shows up in a more clear, direct way. And it's like there's a desire to grow in that 9th house and faith and stuff, but you have to go to work. That's kind of what I feel like. It's like you wish you could just meditate all day, but you got to go back to work. That it could be just something that light, but the 6th house can also be other kind of responsibilities that we have to step up to. And the 9th house is more like the stuff we have the freedom to do when all of our bills are already paid. So it does feel like there's a challenge here with maybe it's a travel thing you want to do around the 19th, that there's some kind of responsibility or thing you have to overcome in order to be able to do it. And maybe it's either pushed back or it could go the other way, where traveling helps you solve problems related to work or your day-to-day life. So now going on to August 28th, later in the month, we have Mercury going direct in Leo. So now we have that direct energy in your 11th house of friends, groups that you belong to that we were contemplating earlier around the 4th. So it's like whatever intentions you were setting back then, now they might be either going full swing, going full speed, or this might be the time where you embark on a new journey. And because Mercury in your chart rules the 9th and 12th house, that new journey might be a very spiritual, metaphorical journey of like meeting people who do the same kind of spiritual stuff you do, or like going on this healing journey and you find breath work, or something like this, where it's like your spiritual path and whatever you're called to right now might take you around the 28th into a new group setting. Or you might sign up for a new thing. You might teach a group. You might be one learning the thing. You might meet new people. This could be work people too. It doesn't have to be best friends, right? Because the 11th house is the public. You might take something public that was private before around this time. Either way, it does feel like there's more clarity on your path and your hopes and dreams and what the next steps might be toward them. Then going on to the last thing we're going to talk about for the month, which I love for you Libras, which is Venus entering Libra. So it's you entering the sign of you. And it's Venus in Libra is nice because it's like there's a focus on harmony and partnership, and it's in your first house of you. So when Venus enters your first house, again, this happens the 29th of August. Sometimes you're your most beautiful, you're your most attractive you're going to be for that year. Venus can sweeten up your body or your life. So this could be you making a change to your appearance, or you focusing on appearance in a way that you feel makes you more pretty or, handsome, whatever. But it could also be more sweetness in your life in general. Things just get a little bit easier. It doesn't take away the fact that we have Saturn somewhere and we have Mars somewhere all the time, right? But that there's a little bit more of pleasure while you're doing whatever you were already doing, a little bit more ease. And I don't feel like that the month will be hard, but having Venus in the first is a nice little experience with either experiences you're doing that give you pleasure and just bringing more pleasure to your life, or again, the aesthetic side of Libra as well. So overall for Libra for August, I'm seeing a lot of internal focus in the month of new beginnings, of planting seeds, of really contemplating and thinking things over and getting kind of serious there. And then, toward the mid-month, being more of a busy period of doing things that you enjoy, finding new hobbies, new fun things can be happening, and just, kind of more energized energy toward the middle of the month. And then around the end of the month, a little bit more clarity on the direction you want to take, especially relating to your spiritual path or the friends that you have, or if you're trying to bring something private into the public. So that's what I see for the month for Libra. Let me know in a comment if it resonates. I always love hearing from you. And we're going to move on now to the next sign, which is going to be our Scorpios. Okay, for Scorpios, for August 2024, we're going to start on the 4th with the new moon in Leo happening in your 10th house of career. Remember, this is not like the day you start the new job. It's the time where you're setting the intentions for what you want to see coming next in your role in life, your career, your job, the work that you do, the role that you have. So if you're a Scorpio who doesn't have a job, but your role is stay-at-home mom or something else, then it's that. So it's a new beginning in that, and it's a new beginning of how are you being seen and probably stepping into your confidence and your authority in your role in life. On the same day, August 4th, we have Venus entering Virgo. That's your 11th house of your friends, your audience, the groups that you are connected to, whether they're colleagues or otherwise. And that's going to make public relations better, is going to make things that you have to do in groups like at work better, or maybe you just see your friends during this time and you enjoy it. But either way, it's about enjoying yourself in groups. Sometimes you're getting dressed up and going out somewhere when Venus is in your 11th, but it can also be, because it's Virgo, it could be trying to improve relationships. So you might be making an effort to make the relationships with the people that you know more harmonious, or they might just become more harmonious. Maybe your friend group, you have some new people who just make it sweeter. Venus rules the 7th and the 12th, so Venus also rules your relationships. So for some Scorpios, especially if you're already coupled, it's like it could just be going out and dating and like taking your partner with you and letting them be seen and like being seen in public, kind of a thing. So what also happens around the 4th, this is going to be late on the 4th in Pacific time, so early on the 5th in other places. We have Mercury retrograding in Virgo, so that's also your 11th house. So even though Venus is bringing more sweetness to the 11th house, Mercury is bringing some question marks to, what is my public life looking like? What are my hopes and dreams? Who are my friends? Who am I connected with? So if you've had challenges with these areas, this might be a time where you're reassessing the aspects of those areas of life that aren't working. So maybe you've got a lot of good stuff in that area, and there's just this little thing you're like, how am I going to tweak this? How am I going to work with this energy? Especially, I would say, if you are a Scorpio who like teaches in groups or something like that, or you have an audience for the work that you do, or you write books or something, this will probably be more of an important life transit. If like groups and audience are keywords in your life that are super important. But either way, it's still, if not, you're still going to be questioning like, who am I friends with? Where do I belong? What are the groups that are right for me? And that could be something as low key as like wanting to go to do new stuff, new places with new people, and wanting to kind of infuse some new energy into your social life. So moving on now to the 19th, we have the full moon in Aquarius. This is happening in your 4th house. So this is a culmination related to family, related to energy, related to how you feel in your own skin. So it can bring more focus on family matters, right? We have that new moon in the 10th, which is like planting seeds earlier in the month for your career. But it's like family or home is going to require a lot from you around the 19th. And this could be because you're doing something with your physical home or your house, but it could also be because there's something emotional that needs to be tended to. And on the same day, we have Jupiter squaring Saturn. So Jupiter in your 8th house squares Saturn in your 5th house. Jupiter in the 8th can provide more opportunities to join resources with others or to make gains from other people. To gain from, maybe that you're gaining their insight. Maybe you're learning how to grow your stocks or something, right? Doing something very 8th house related. If there's something 8th house related in your life, like stocks or investments or something like that, then Jupiter might bring more blessings. Or if you've done work like where you get royalties, Jupiter might bring more royalties. But if that doesn't apply to you, Jupiter in the 8th is probably asking you to change a little bit, to become more, to get outside your comfort zone. And with Saturn in the fifth, this might actually have to do with romance, but it could also have to do with flirting and dating. It's like you have to be more intimate if you want to date people, but maybe you're not letting people in, or the people that you're meeting are no's and you can't grow the intimacy how you want, or you become really, there's some weird tension here with intimacy and dating. If you're a Scorpio who's dating, if you're not dating, it's actually maybe with your kids. Like maybe you learned something about one of your kids that you didn't know. If you don't have kids, then this can also be your self-employment or your creativity or just your fun. So fun and intimacy might be connected in a way that has some tension related to it. I'm not gonna, that could be a bunch of stuff. I don't know what you guys are into. Anyway, yeah, that 8th house gets kind of tricky and complicated. But it's Jupiter, so Jupiter's going to bring more good things to it. And Jupiter rules your 2nd house. The 2nd house ruler in the 8th being squared by Saturn kind of makes me feel like maybe you want to be making investments, or you are making investments, but you're not getting the money back, or maybe you're doing a project where you have to you're the investor in the scenario, like you're the one paying for something that's like a combined effort. And so maybe the dividends haven't come back yet. Maybe you're putting money into something at this time. Either way, overall, it's just the 19th, there's going to be some kind of push and pull between your family, what you want to do, what you have to invest in. You might have to help someone at this time as well, or maybe they're helping you. Let's go forward now to the 28th, where Mercury goes direct in Leo. This is your 10th house. So now we have some clarity. Now we have a path to go ahead. If you want more on this, I have a separate video on this whole Mercury retrograde. So you can watch that video as well. But this is a time where you're going to have the plan now. Early in the month, you didn't know what to do, or there was a need to reassess how things were going. Now, that could even just be like how your, work roles were being divided, and like who's getting more of the work. That could be something minor at the workplace, right? Unless you're really unsatisfied with your role in life, then now on the 28th, when Mercury goes direct in Leo, it's like, okay, now I know how to approach this with confidence and work with the other people involved. And then going forward toward the end of the month, on August 29th, we have Venus entering Libra. That's going to be in your 12th house of isolation. And, again, back to the 12th house. Actually, no, we haven't talked about your 12th house yet. So Venus entering Libra in the 12th house kind of makes your privacy and your private life sweeter. The 12th house is like our spiritual life. It's when we get quiet, when we're isolated. So it's like time to yourself is more enjoyable during this time. Maybe you get some time to yourself that you didn't have, but you can also get like insights, right? Because like the sweetness of the 12th house, when the 12th house is like facing difficult things, then Venus would be, what is the reward of that? Well, maybe it's easier to look at difficult things because someone's helping you, or you have a counselor who's helping you look at patterns or something. Or you just have the space and the mental ability to kind of do it in a way where it's not as bad as it normally would feel. So if you're trying to get to the heart of a root cause of something, or you want to know about your own psyche, the 29th is the time to kind of go deeper into that, especially when it comes to relationships. If you felt like you've had problems that have come up over and over, and you want to get to the root cause of a pattern, this would also be a good time for that kind of activity as well. So overall for Scorpios, we see a lot of focus on your public life and what role you want to have, how others are receiving you, how you're working with people, working in groups. There's some energy in the mid-month around the home and family that will take some energy. And I think there's going to be stuff to hash out with other people this month. It really does feel like a month of like, the people you're really connected to, just managing kind of those connections, whether that be professionally or family-wise or friend-wise or otherwise. So that is what I have for Scorpio. Let me know in a comment if it resonates, and we're going to go on to our next sign, which is Sagittarius. Hey Sagittarius, let's talk about August 2024. Starting with the 4th of August, we have the new moon in Leo, we have Venus entering Virgo, And we have Mercury retrograde. So the new moon in Leo is happening in your 9th house of travel, the meaning of life, philosophy, teaching, publishing. So this is a good time to set intentions for those things. It's not the day to start. The day to start is going to be, at least a few more days. But it's a good day to contemplate, what new things you want to do in those areas. And that area might be in focus in terms of some of the goals that you're setting for the future. You might be planning a trip. You might be going somewhere. You might be wanting to teach something. You might be learning some cool spiritual stuff or buying some new books or studying a new course or something. And on August 4th, Venus entering Virgo, that's going to be in your 10th house. So, the 10th house with Venus there does make work a little bit sweeter. So if you're doing work that's in the public eye with Venus there, you can actually be more charismatic. You can be more beautiful. You can show up in a way that is more like lovely or have a nice voice or more alluring to people. So if you have work to do that, again, is public or requires that, this might be a time where, that Venus there just gives you an extra boost. Venus also rules your 6th house and 11th house. So this might be a time where you're focusing on making some kind of work that you've been working on. It becomes more visible because Venus ruling the 6th kind of represents the work you've done, like the work that you just kind of do the daily grind, or like the work you do to learn a skill and no one sees, or if you're at work, let's say it's a spreadsheet you've been working on that's not published yet. And then around the 4th is like when that thing becomes visible to others. So there might be a focus on having a certain amount of visibility during this time. And it's not necessarily you though. It might not be you going up in front of people being in the spotlight. It might be your work becomes more visible at this time. And that could be temporary or permanent, just depending on other things. But at the same time, Mercury goes retrograde in Virgo. So that's August 4th, later in the day it's in the evening in Pacific time. So in some places it'll be on the 5th, but Mercury going retrograde in that 10th house kind of says like, wait, what are we doing here? We just made this thing public and now we've realized, it kind of reminds me of like, if you were to launch, let's say you launched a website with like a chat bot and it like you send a bunch of people to it and then you realize it's not working, So that's the metaphor. Fill that in with what makes sense in your job or your work life or your role in life that isn't work related, like if you're a stay-at-home mom or something. But it's like you put something out there and then you realize all the little problems and all the things that need to be fixed about it for the next time. Now, you might not be fixing it now. You might just have gotten more attention or more focus on a thing that makes you realize what needs to be worked out, right? When you do an event for the first time, you just know you need to work on X, Y, and Z on your next speech, right? So it doesn't feel like a negative thing. It feels like there's a surge of energy in that 10th house of career that sort of brings a need to go through some of the details and fix things or get rid of things or, go through something with a fine-tooth comb and really pick through it and go through the analytics of like, what worked here, what didn't, what on the spreadsheet are we keeping, what are we getting rid of? Also, Mercury ruling the 7th and the 10th does make this transit a little bit stronger. So I do think you're going to see something going on the 4th in your life, in your work life especially. And again, it doesn't mean bad, but that Mercury retrograde is like, okay, where is our career heading? What is our role? What do we want it to be? Where is that working and where is it not working? It could be that you're having to do all this administrative stuff you don't need to be doing and you want to step into more of a boss role, for example. Now, we're going to fast forward to mid-month. So we've got the 19th of August is another point of the month that's in focus because we have the full moon in Aquarius in your 3rd house, which might have to do with communication or going places or, going from place to place. So August 19th might be a time for Sagittarius where you are just busier, right? Because the 3rd house is like your local environment. So for some Sagittarius, maybe you're going home for a trip and you're seeing all your, old stomping grounds and your cousins and your brothers and sisters and stuff. But for others, this might be a focus on the environment you live in and your neighbors, your neighborhood, the people you see on a regular basis, and just having a lot more. Usually with third house stuff, you have a lot more to do. So it's like going here, going there, seeing this person, seeing that person, talking to these people, talking to those people, getting on the phone, chatting on Instagram, DMing people, emailing, just kind of that, like, I think of like a person in an office who just is like doing all the different things. So that might be you, the metaphor of you for that day or that few days, right? Because the full moon, remember, it's not an ending, it's a culmination. So that means your third house will be full of stuff. And that means you're probably driving a bunch of places, or your car is in focus, or your neighborhood is in focus. So then also on the same day, the 19th, for Sagittarius, we've got Jupiter squaring Saturn from your 7th to 4th houses. So Jupiter in that Jupiter in the 7th house of Gemini, Saturn in the 4th house of Pisces, making a square. This could be something as light and simple as like your partner and your parent get in an argument and they don't see eye to eye at the family reunion. Or it could be something a little more serious where you realize an adjustment has to be made between your relationship and your home life. Now that could be your family of origin, right? And this kind of depends on what stage of life you're in, right? Because your family could be the parents, but it could also be your kids. And that the 7th house is usually your partner, but if you're not married and you're not in a relationship, it could be a long-term friend. But it's like the people you're working with, either your one-on-one clients or your partner or your good friends. There's growth in that area right now for Sagittarius. So you can make more friends. You can have more experiences with friends. You might be seeing a bunch of different friends for different things, or seeing a bunch of different clients for different things, or have growth in that area. But then the Saturn in the 4th house is stressing it out. So some kind of commitment at home might make it harder to show up for your one-on-one clients or your best friends, or they might both want something from you at the same time. There's just some kind of stress test going on here. Now, moving on to the 28th, we have Mercury goes direct in Leo. So that's going to happen in your 9th house. So whatever you were planning or thinking about doing related to traveling or teaching or your spiritual life, whether it's taking a course or learning or something, now you're ready to make the plan for that thing. So it's making a plan to travel, making a plan to write, to publish something, to learn a new spiritual thing. Especially, focus on the 9th house again. It's the house of God. So it's like your spiritual life. How are you listening to your spirit guides? What's the connection there? There's an ability to feel like you're moving forward on your path now. Whereas maybe in the beginning of the month, around the 4th or so, it's like, what is my right path though? With all this stuff that's just changed, maybe there's some confusion of like, if you believe in God, what does God want for me? And if you believe in the universe, it might be like, what does the universe want for me? And then not being able to know the answer here until around the 28th, where it's like, now there's some kind of clarity or focus direction you can go toward. And it's like, okay, let's try this. Maybe if this means this, then here's how we're going to solve this problem. And maybe the problem is like, you don't have time to meditate. Or maybe the problem is you didn't get to read all the spiritual books you want to read. It's something related to more like the quest. Okay. So then, and like, is your work meaningful is another question that could be wrapped up in all of this, because your Mercury rules your 10th house, and having it directing your 9th house is like, now we know how our work is meaningful, right? At least this level of the stage of the game we're at. And that's a nice thing to be able to go forward with. And so whatever awareness happens around the 28th, I would take that with you, make a snapshot of that, write it in your journal, note it down. If there is some clarity or some feeling of relief around what matters to you, this would be a good thing to kind of keep in mind, because Mercury doesn't always repeat, the same house. I mean, it does kind of repeat over and over, but it might be a while before you get another one like this. Okay, so the next event, which is at the end of the month here, the 29th, is Venus entering Libra. So Venus is your 6th ruler and your 11th ruler in your 11th house. So what does it mean? It's about solving problems with your friends. It's about bringing your problems to your audience, and problems can be like paying your rent. It can be, 6th house can also be like your work schedule, the work that you're doing, bringing a project you've been working on into the public. So it could be something like launching a course or launching something, or having a project at work that now you're making more public. It's like now you gave the permissions on the spreadsheet, which depending on what job you're doing, just apply it to what fits for you. Something you've been working at now becomes a more fun collaborative thing, right? Because Venus is in Libra in the 11th. It's about having fun, enjoying solving problems with friends. Maybe you join a mastermind. Maybe you're in some kind of group where you want to, I don't know, you want to do a high ticket coaching. So you do a group that teaches that. Although I'm not saying go do that, because there's a lot of scammers. I know. Maybe, you want to learn astrology, you join a group that learns astrology, but it feels a little bit more, with Venus ruling the 6th house, about creating work that's like part of your hopes and dreams, or either bringing something you've already worked on to the public and like offering it, or bringing problems to a group, like a support group, right? Like the 11th house isn't always a support group, but it does I just get this feeling of like bringing your problems to a group of people and them becoming more public, but maybe for the purpose of harmony and collaboration, So it's like a mastermind, right? Where someone's like, I need help with Facebook, and someone else is like, I need help with my email list or whatever. Fit that into what makes sense in your life, what your problems are right now, and what group you might bring problems to, if you have one or not, or if you've been wanting to. Think about how this fits to what's actually happening in your life. Are you stressed and you've been wanting to share those stresses with people? Are you having trouble with your eating or your drinking or something? Think about how that might apply to you personally, because it's going to be different for everyone. So overall for Sagittarius, a lot of stuff this month, a lot of career stuff to work through, but there feels like there's energy around this. It feels like it's like a good whoosh of energy, highlights the need to change, but not in a bad way. We're looking at some communication. We're looking at being busy, jumping into things, thinking about the meaning of life, which I know a good Sagittarius wants to do anyway, getting clarity on what that is at this point for you. And then, solving problems with friends, maybe enjoying time with friends too, maybe just solving your problems in a sense by just going and doing stuff you enjoy with people. It does feel like there's something nice in the social life at the end of the month as well. So that's what I have for Sagittarius. Let me know in a comment if it makes sense. And we're going to go on to the next sign, which is Capricorns. For Capricorn, for August of 2024, we're starting with August 4th. The new moon in Leo is happening in your 8th house of shared resources. This can show up as transformation, overcoming fears, but oftentimes financial is the first thing I'm always going to look at. So this might be setting intentions to invest more or to treat money that you share with others a little bit differently. It can be a time where you're investing in others, they're investing in you, or new focus on changing things, learning how to work with others, and a new level of intimacy. Then on the same day, Venus enters Virgo in your 9th house of foreign travel, of spirituality, the spiritual path, of travel, learning, teaching. So some of you, if you're already learning, if you're already teaching, already publishing, already doing something related to the 9th house, this will be Venus making it sweeter. So whatever you already do that relates to the 9th house, that's what this is going to have to do with. If you have to go to court, it will make that a more pleasant experience than it would have been. It doesn't mean it's going to be the best thing you've ever done. So expect Venus to bring a little bit of ease to those kind of activities, just depending on what you're doing. If you're a writer, great time to be writing or publishing. So Venus and Virgo in the 9th house for you, it's like the moment you hear some spiritual truth and it just hits your soul and you're like, that's Venus in the ninth house. It's like those spiritual realizations, or just you say a prayer, or you find a moment of gratitude, something nice and pleasant related to the spiritual path, usually a sense of ease on your path. But on the same day, August 4th, Mercury is going to go retrograde in Virgo in the ninth house. So Mercury retrograde here will have you reassessing your spiritual path. It might have you reassessing just one thing that the ninth house represents that is related to your life. So think about whether you are an author, whether you are super spiritual, whether you do something related to the law, legal work in any capacity, whether you do, let me think, the law, publishing, spirituality, travel, you deal with foreigners or foreign languages, you're reassessing all that. Now, if you don't do most of that stuff, then this is probably just your spiritual path in life. Like, what's my path? That's a question that might be coming up on the 4th. It's like you might have the enjoyment of Venus making it easier to explore and want to kind of dive deep into what is my path in life. And, especially in terms of where do you feel useful? So then the next thing happening, now that Mercury retrograde won't answer the question, it brings up the question. We'll talk about the answer later this month. So we're going to go forward to about mid-month, about August 19th. The full moon in Aquarius is happening in your second house. Sometimes you get paid, sometimes you get a payout. Sometimes you are just more, you're just more focused on making money. So around that full moon in Aquarius time might be where let's say you lent money on the 4th, maybe you get it back on the 2nd. But for most people, it's like you might either get more money or you might be spending more money or have more focus on like how you're spending what you have or budgeting or, that kind of thing. Usually the full moon is not an ending. It's like that area of life is big. It's its biggest it will be in the cycle. It's full like the moon. So usually that means your bank account on the second house. So yay, Capricorn, if that's the case. And if it's not your bank account, it's you just bought something and now your bank account's empty, but your house has all of the furniture it needs. And your fridge is full of food or something. It really can be that simple. So also on the same day though, we have Jupiter squaring Saturn. So Jupiter in your 6th house of your health, your work. When Jupiter's in the 6th and it's squaring Saturn in the 3rd, but wait, is that right? Let me think about it. Capricorn. Yeah. Pisces is the 3rd. Sagittarius is the 6th. No. What? No, Gemini is the 6th. Oh my God. Okay. Gemini in the 6th. Jupiter in the 6th of Gemini. Squaring Saturn in the 3rd of Pisces. Yeah, so like Jupiter in the 6th house, you can be doing something that is really like doing some labor of love or doing some work and like getting good at it, kind of sharpening the axe of like what you're good at. You could be brushing up on skills or just putting out a lot or doing something a lot that's going to possibly benefit your career down the road. And sometimes Jupiter in the 6th is like you get assistance with problem solving, you get assistance, you get help paying your bills. That could be a thing, especially with that new moon in the 8th. You get help, like, I don't know, you live with someone for a while, you don't have to pay rent, stuff like that where somehow you get help with things, okay? So getting help with your day-to-day challenges is squared by that Saturn in the 3rd. So it's almost like maybe you have car trouble someone helps you with around the 19th. But it could also be, Saturn in the 3rd could also be some kind of somehow being isolated in your local environment. So that could be in your home where everyone else is gone for a while. It could be in your environment where like there's like constructions, you got to go a different way. And it's like, maybe it's not isolated, but it's more work to do. Your commute becomes more work. But somehow Jupiter helps you with it, or like your car needs some work on it and then you get an Uber or like you ride share or you borrow someone else's car or, it's probably the 3rd and 6th. It's a pain in the ass because these houses are like pain in the ass houses. And not everything is a pain in the ass, but if you have good siblings, maybe they'll be good. But it just feels like something you got to deal with on the 19th. And it's probably something every day, like the rent check didn't go through, so you got to go to the bank and then make them refix something that maybe wasn't even your fault. Who writes checks? I don't know. But the point is, Capricorns, you guys might just have some kind of problems. You got to fiddle with it a little bit to fix it. Or a lot, you might have a broken window that you can't fiddle with, but you got to fix. I don't know why that's my thing. I've been saying broken window is my metaphor, but don't think I'm saying your window's going to break. I'm just giving an example of a day-to-day problem that might be happening around the 19th, especially with, transportation, commuting, car, siblings, your day-to-day, grocery store now takes longer to buy the groceries, just stuff like that. So don't think some horrible thing will happen. I don't think so. Okay, going on now, focusing on the next thing, which is August 28th, Mercury goes direct in Leo. So remember earlier we were talking about setting the intentions for the new beginnings with shared resources, transformation. Now at least you're going to know what that path is. So depending on what intentions you were setting back on the 4th of August, when the new moon was happening, and what you're wanting to do next, what your life is calling you or requiring you to do next, related to sharing money with people, related to sharing with others in ways that benefit you or them financially, that relate to work that is intimate or life becoming more intimate, getting closer to people, whatever that is that you were thinking about back on the 4th. Now there is a path ahead. It doesn't mean everything's perfect, but at least there is some clarity on what to do next and how to proceed. So, especially if this was like a financial thing that you didn't have control over on the 4th, of like, I don't know, like your bank not giving you all your money or your payment processor withholding something, then this might be the time where you get clarity. Again, you get clarity on how to proceed. Are they going to work with you? Do you have to submit something, et cetera, et cetera? I do think because it's in the 8th house for Capricorn, this can be something that's a little bit more like filling out paperwork for a request or getting, a tax thing done or something like that. Going on now to Venus entering Libra. So this is a nice little transit at the end of the month, August 29th. This is going to be your 10th house. So Venus can just make work life a little bit sweeter. Okay. So we might see this literally where someone brings donuts. We might see this figuratively where you get to work with someone who you enjoy working with, or you get to work on some kind of work that's fun, especially since Venus rules your 5th house. It's like fun goes into your work, fun shows up at work. So who knows, that could be a vacation, or it could be, again, working on something you like, especially something where you get creative potency. You get to do something that, wait a minute. Yes. Okay. You get to do something that is like putting your life force energy, putting your personal stamp on the project. It's like if you're a producer, it's a song that's a type of music that's like your type of music. Or if you, write for your company, it's like, I don't know, you get to be a little bit more creative in your writing. You get to have more you in the thing, if that makes sense. So I do like the 29th for how it can just make your public role a little bit sweeter. If you're someone who needs to be charming or needs to look really nice for what you do, then the 29th could also be really good for that, because Venus in the 10th will, especially if it's online or in front of a bunch of people, Venus in the 10th can help with that like public image in terms of just looking put together, looking really harmonious, having your outfits work well together, or, kind of just you being the charismatic or the pleasurable experience for others, if that makes sense. So it might be you that's being Venus in the 10th. It might be you that's like dressing really nice for an event at work. It might be you that's like got a new hairstyle and you're showing up at your job or your work in a really nice looking way. So, sorry. Okay, so that is what I have for August for 2024. So for Capricorns, just to recap, we've got some stuff, some questioning about the meaning of life. We've got some stuff going on with shared resources, our transformation. There might be more focus on money and getting stuff done. Maybe something in the environment, running errands gets harder around the 19th. This might be something else, but it's like, just, give a little extra time, I would say, for whatever's going on at this time. And then around the 10th, we have the chance, around the 29th, we have the chance to really, make a good impression in our work life. So that's what I have for Capricorn. Let me know in a comment if it resonates. I love hearing from you guys, and I will see you all in the next video. All right, so here we go, Aquarius for August of 2024. And we're going to start with the first thing, which is August 4th. There's a new moon in Leo. This is in your 7th house of relationships. So this is a time to set intentions for what you want in relationship, especially now if you're already in a relationship. It might be a time to focus on what you want in that next stage of the relationship or the current phase that it's in, right? How to sort of consciously create the dynamic that you're wanting. And if you're single, this can be about really contemplating what kind of person you want to be with and what kind of person you would be proud to be with. Who are you proud to be around? That's the question for this new moon, and that's the intention to set. And it might be a significant other, but for those who that's not part of their season of life right now, it can just be, who are you proud to be friends with? Who are you proud to work with as one-on-one clients? Who is in your circle? Are you proud of them? Is it working for you? And does it make you feel confident? Do you feel confident in your role in your friendships and your relationships? That's a question that Aquarius might be asking here on this new moon. Okay. On August 4th, also, Venus enters Virgo. And this is going to be in your 8th house of intimacy, transformation. This is going to be other people's money. So I do think this month Aquariuses might have confusion or focus on how they're sharing with other people. If you're in a relationship, how are you guys dividing up the money and stuff? If you're not in a relationship, this could be even like roommates. They're paying this much, you're paying this much kind of a thing. But it does feel like Venus entering Virgo makes it easier to get intimate and connect with people. But then Mercury the same day goes retrograde in Virgo, making it a question mark, like highlighting the need to reassess how you're showing up in close relationships with people or how other people are showing up in close relationships with you. For some Aquarius, it's going to be about how you're investing your money. It's going to show up in that side of the 8th house. Who owes you what, who do you owe kind of a thing. And so it can be that as well. It can be just one of those things. And if none of that resonates, it might be, how do you want to transform? What fears are you facing or not facing? And how do you want to kind of push yourself in the next stage of life? This would be, sometimes the retrograde point might be when you're like, you realize something you don't like about it. So if you're more on the loner side of things at the moment, you might be like, man, you might see someone in a relationship and be like, man, I wish I had that, right? So it can be something like that. So be aware around August 4th. For some people, this is early August 5th, but it's for a need to change, like what needs to be changed when it comes to your level of intimacy with people and what is going on with your money mostly. So now we're going to fast forward to mid-month. On the 19th, we have the full moon in Aquarius in your 1st house. And that does not mean that everything ends. Like a full moon is not an ending. Okay. It is a culmination where that thing is the fullest. And the fullest area of life is you, your independence, your life direction, your job, your identity, your friends, your everything. Everything about you is highlighted on that 19th. So it's probably going to be a focus on whatever you've got going on in your life. You're probably going to be busier, more focused on your identity and really stepping up to whatever current role you have. It might demand more from you around the 19th. And What else also happens on the 19th is Jupiter squares Saturn. So, Jupiter in your fifth house squaring Saturn in your second house. And Jupiter in the fifth being growth and possibilities, opening up related to your creativity. If you want to have kids, sometimes that happens. If you don't, that's okay. It can be your self-employment, how you express yourself, really a focus on opening up to either more ways of having fun or just letting life be more fun. Now, that squaring Saturn in the second makes me feel like some Aquariuses might find that your hobbies are too expensive and you have to cut them back at this time. It might be something where you want to do more creative stuff, but you have to work, right? Because Saturn in the second usually is going to be financial responsibilities, right? And with all this eighth house stuff, maybe this is like you're in a stage where of your creative passion where all you want and need to do is like invest in it, but the money isn't there. So there's a tension around how to figure that out. Or, it's adjustments need to be made between your passion, your creativity versus your spending or your finances. And it feels like finances are going to win. The finances dictate the pleasure, not the other way around, unfortunately. Now, this might be you just cancel Netflix. It might not be huge life-changing stuff, but whatever's going on here with Jupiter and Saturn, Jupiter will try to help make it better. So there could even be like it's almost like by having fun, it might help alleviate some of your financial stress. I'm not saying wasting all your money on having fun, but it could be that you find a positive outlet or you find some kind of creative way of dealing with the financial pressure that you're under if you're feeling that with Saturn in your second. Sometimes when Saturn's in your second, though, the reason you have less money is because you just cut back your hours and you don't want to work that much or something else like that. So this could actually be that you have more freedom to have fun, but that you're not making as much. So you have to have some concessions. All right. So then the next thing that happens is that on the 28th of August, Mercury goes direct in Leo, and that's in your seventh house. So remember, we talked about how on August 4th, on the new moon, that's the new setting of intentions. Mercury going direct doesn't make the intentions happen necessarily, but it does help between that new moon and the retrograde. Wait a minute. Yes. Okay. Let me explain, because the retrograde was in Virgo, but when Mercury goes direct, it's going to be one sign back in Leo. So even though it went a sign back, it's almost like there's new awareness on relationships and connections with other people and what they need to involve related to money and related to what's pleasurable for you and what isn't. And there can be so much going on here for Aquarius. It can be like you have a partner and they're not meeting your needs. It can be that the spending and the dividing of who's paying for what is not working and it's getting weird. It could be that you need to start getting weird. You need to start, combining resources and you don't know how to do that, or, something going on with that. So when Mercury goes direct in Leo on the 28th, that's not going to be in the 8th house. It's going to be in the relationship house, the 7th house. So this might be a time where you're clarifying what you need from the other person in the situation. You might be clarifying what you want next in love, or what your collective plans are together. Especially for Aquarius in relationships, it's all about this is stuff like, okay, we want to get this house, but it only has one bedroom. There's two of us, or we have a 3-bedroom and we're getting a 2-bedroom. Who's going to get is it going to be my sewing room, or is it going to be his video game room? And, it can be some stuff like that, okay? And apply it to what fits for you. If you're a single Aquarius, the Mercury direct in Leo in the 7th, again, is more about either the potential of a future relationship or the people that you're connected with at this time, and being more clear on maybe your role or how you can proceed with more confidence in your relationships with others. Okay, so that's for all Aquarius. That 7th house, Mercury direct in Leo on August 28th, is about how you can proceed with clarity and confidence of your role in all your relationships with other people. And now it's like, now you know the path. You might not be there. It might be a mountain you have to climb, but you know the path ahead. And then we have a nice transit at the end of the month here. On August 29th, Venus enters Libra in the 9th house. So when I think of Venus in the 9th, I think of like you get a hit of spiritual wisdom and it just lands on your soul. And it's just like when you turn on a podcast and that spiritual person is just saying the exact thing that you needed to hear. And you're just like, that's the feeling I think of when Venus goes into the 9th house, and it's in Libra, so it almost guarantees that it's going to be something harmonious. So the 29th, if you're trying to find a new spiritual podcast, or, you're in a rut with your stuff, or even, it's a good time to even go back and listen to an old spiritual teacher who just says everything you need to hear, to let yourself connect to the universe and feel like you're on the path. It might not be about figuring it out, because Venus isn't about knowing what to do. It's about enjoying right now. So you might be enjoying something related to spiritual stuff. And some Aquarius, for those who are into like astrological magic, or you're into doing ceremonies, or like getting the candles and the incense and then making offerings, the 29th might just be a time where you're doing that stuff. You're bringing spirit into matter, right? Venus being matter, the 9th house being spirit. But for everyone else, it's a nice time to get spiritual wisdom and to get clarity on your path, and to kind of let the information wash over you without needing the clarity to be the exact next thing. Let it be just the feeling that is right, is kind of a thing. So I do feel like that feels like a positive thing for Aquarius toward the end of the month. So just to recap what we're seeing for August, some things need to be worked out this month with relationships, spending, with connecting with other people, where you're intermeshed with people and where you aren't, and where you're independent. And that independence might be at its peak around the 19th. There might be some changes that need to be made to your spending related to hobbies, or some kind of tension between what you enjoy and how much money you have. And then there's probably going to be some clarity by the end of the month, of how to proceed in relationship, as far as how you can be confident with your role when it comes to other people in your life. So that's what I've got for Aquarius. Let me know if it resonated, and I will see you all in the next video. Now on to our last but not least sign of Pisces. All right, Pisces, we're looking at August of 2024. So here we are with the August 4th, we have a new moon in Leo. And that's going to be in your 6th house of work, of problem solving, of chores and health, your work schedule, what you do day to day, that kind of thing, your diet. So you might be just setting intentions for either a new kind of workflow or new diet, or really being aware of what you want to see change in your day-to-day kind of problems you have to solve, or work you have to do. So that is a good day to set those intentions. It's not the day to expect the solution, because the new moon is the quietest time where it's empty, right? So it might not be, this new moon in Leo the 6th might not be you solving problems. It might be you setting intentions for having a life that doesn't have this kind of problem. Instead, you have this kind of problem, if that makes sense. If some of you, the 6th house is also people who work for you. So some Pisces at this time might be wanting to hire out. That's not going to be everyone. Others, it is your work. So it might be wanting to focus on things with coworkers or the workplace dynamics, something like that. But then this same day, we have Venus entering Virgo. That's the 4th of August as well. And that's in your 7th house of relationships. So Venus can make your relationships sweeter on the 4th. This might be like if you work with one-on-one clients, you get really nice clients. If you have a partner, it can be they're giving you flowers or something, but it can also be a desire to want to work on the relationships, right? A desire to want to kind of fix problems in the relationships, a desire to do work together with certain people, especially with the 6th house highlighted on the same day. So it might be kind of focusing on some kind of collaborative effort to work on a project or paint a house or do something that's not money related, that's still like a community service or like helping your friend move or something. Now, Mercury goes retrograde in Virgo on the same day. This is August 4th. It's late in the evening, August 4th, for Pacific time, which means some of you it'll be on the 5th, depending on where you live. And it's still retrograding in that 7th house, bringing the question mark of who am I with? Who should I be with? Or what are the dynamics of the relationships I'm in and what should they be? So there might be some awareness of, even though Venus enters Virgo making this sweeter, there might still be awareness of the problem. There might be awareness of you having a problem with the people around you in some way. And it might not be a huge problem. It might be like they're not listening to me. Or it might be like, I don't know what else. Something going on in relationships here that you're reassessing. It could be a past relationship where you're like, how could I ever be with someone like that? Or it could be, how do I make sure that pattern I saw in this last thing doesn't come up again? Or it could be you telling a friend, like, I didn't really like it when this happened. Or something happens and you're like, no, we're not, this isn't, even though Mercury isn't necessarily setting boundaries, it might just be more an internal process of becoming aware that a person is not who you thought they were, or you can't count on them in a certain way, or telling them they can't count on you in a certain way. So something needs to be adjusted. Something will probably become clear that it's an issue at this point. Don't try to force the solution. Right now, Mercury retrograde is the time that you begin to be aware of the challenge. So you should watch my video on this, on the whole Mercury retrograde, because I'll talk about every stage and what to do during each stage. But Mercury rules your 4th and 7th. So it's like relationships and home stuff is the stuff that's in focus to revise and revisit. So now mid-month, we have this full moon in Aquarius in your 12th house of isolation, meditation, spirituality. This can also be a little bit of self-sabotage, but the full moon in Aquarius might be, it fills up this area. So if your 12th house is filled up, what does that mean? Well, it means you are maybe focusing a lot on meditating. Maybe you're getting time away from people at this moment and you're taking some time out to just contemplate. Maybe you're isolated for some other reason that is not your preference and you're not choosing it, it's just happening. Maybe, what else could it be? Really deciding to take on psychological stuff and focusing on it. You might not even be isolated. You might just get a therapist, and this is a day that you're talking to the therapist about certain patterns that have happened that you want to get to the root cause of, and really being willing to look, right? So that's the good side of the 12th house, is when we're willing to look at the things that are normally otherwise too hard to see. So on the same day, we have Jupiter square Saturn in the 4th and 1st houses. So maybe it's looking at something too hard to see because that's related to family dynamics. Maybe it's spending time by yourself because of challenges between what your family wants and what you want. And what you want might win in this case. And it's like you want to go hiking, they want to go to a freaking golf course, and you're like, I'm not going to a golf course. It can be something like that. But, it can be something a little more general related to family dynamics or home. And because it's like your responsibilities are in the 1st house. So maybe it's like the people in your house are not respecting you working online and you have to go somewhere by yourself to do it. It could be that you have to work and your family goes to a party, baseball game without you or something. I don't know if it's baseball season. I'm sorry. It could be a bunch of other stuff. But the conflict here with Jupiter and Saturn for you Pisces is between home and self. And maybe you have to make adjustments because like to go forward with your identity, maybe the home you have or the family that's around you is making it really hard to go forward with some recent commitments or responsibilities. Or it could go the other way where the recent commitments and responsibilities are making it hard for you to show up in your family or your home with the commitments that you have. Maybe you're torn between moving somewhere or not moving. That could be another way. So either way, there's some tension here, and I feel like it might lead to some kind of isolation, or it might lead to some kind of contemplation about what's going on with that full moon in Aquarius in the 12th house of isolation. So a stress point between family and self leads to not maybe choosing to get away from the conflict, or something that makes you more, maybe it's peace. Maybe you're like, I got some peace and quiet that day. And maybe it's just simply, I wanted peace and quiet. It was loud at home, so I went somewhere else. Okay, so you can think about what's happening in your life and which of those things make sense for you based on, do you live with family or not? Are you going to see your family at that time, etc. So going on now to the next date we have on our list, which is August 28th when Mercury goes direct in Leo. So Mercury retrograded in your 7th house, bringing up questions on relationships, but it's going direct in the 6th house of work and chores and stuff you got to do in your health. So Mercury going direct for Pisces in the 6th house is like, gives you a new awareness of how to proceed related to maybe your daily schedule, what you have to accomplish. The 6th house can be your job, but for a lot of Pisces, I think it's more like solving an immediate problem that's like in your face, that at some point during this stage, you're like, I don't know how to deal with. Now maybe you can deal with it. Now maybe you don't have every single tool you need to fix the problem. So let's say the problem, we're going to use a metaphor of a broken window. I'm not predicting broken windows, but it's just an analogy. Let's say the window has been broken for a long time and you're like, I don't know what to do. It's big. Maybe now on the 28th of August, you're like, I know what kind of window I need to buy and who can install it for me. Okay, so it doesn't mean you have the money and you've bought the window. It just means you have the solution to the path ahead. And because Mercury rules your 4th and 7th house, it's like solving family and relationship stuff all at one time. And you got the blueprint. Now it's up to you to you can figure out what the solution is. Now, going on to the last transit of the month, this one will be nice, I think. And that's Venus entering Libra. Venus is at home in Libra. It's on August 29th. It's in your 8th house of taxes and money. And so Venus entering Libra in a house that's related to shared money kind of does give the feeling like someone's going to give you money or someone's going to let you sleep at their place and you get to sleep in their bed and it's a really nice bed. Or someone's going to let you come over for dinner and they're having a feast and you don't have to bring anything. It does feel like, because Venus is stuff other people bring to, 8th house is stuff other people bring to you, and it's Venus. So it's either money or it's love. Maybe there's some romantic stuff going on around the 29th and it's intimacy and it's a lovely experience, a lovely connection, because Libra is very much about like partnership and balance. So I would say either like pleasure in the sense of intimacy, And remember, that can be sexual or non-sexual, right? You can get to know a family member. That's your third house ruler, so it could be a sibling. A sibling lets you get to know them a little more, or a cousin, or an aunt or uncle, third house. And you feel more happy and connected to them. You know, even when someone tells you something they did when they were little, have you ever had that happen? And it's like, you're like, oh, grandma, I can't believe that. You know, right? So it's like that kind of intimacy where you just get to know your people a little bit more. That can be part of Venus entering Libra, or they get to know you. You reveal something about yourself and maybe are a little bit vulnerable, and you know, maybe there's something good that comes of that, or some kind of ease. Venus makes it better. Now, maybe there's something already going on in the 8th house. If it's taxes, if it's money you owe, if it's something like that, Venus might help give you a little bit of money to pay your bills, to pay things you owe. Or, I don't know, let's say you split the bill with someone for the month, and then let's say you have roommates and you split the air conditioning. It's August. Well, maybe they had a friend come and the friend also pitched in for the air, and now the bill got lower. You know, you didn't do anything. It was just something nice that happened. Or, I don't know, the other roommate was gone and the air was off more, so the bill got lower. So Venus can be something like that too, where it takes an 8th house problem, which is usually owing money, and it might not make it go away with just going through there, but it might make it better. So let's go over the overview of August for Pisces. We got new beginnings in work, or your role in work, or with hiring employees with that new moon in Leo, or with just how you're spending your time, how you're being of service to others. We got some relationship stuff going on, reassessing of relationship that might even lead to changing how you approach your daily schedule, and something interesting and different. Maybe a challenge between self and family, that there's something at odds here, or self and home, that leads to a moment of more isolation, or more alone time, or more quietude, and possibly more independence. But it's weird because this is a month for Pisces. I see a change to independence and dependence. So it's almost like maybe you're more independent in this way and more dependent in this way, or maybe you moved out of living by yourself and now you have roommates, and it's a form of dependence, but it's not a bad one, right? So I do see relationship stuff, how you're interacting with other people. I see new beginnings with how you're spending your time, and releasing things that you don't need anymore. Especially I didn't say this. If you've had a phase where you weren't really as involved in life and you were more isolated, this might be a time where it's like the end of this phase. It's like maybe on the 19th of August, you're the most isolated you've been, but now that isolation starts fading down, and the 6th house of being involved in life and being of service and engaging with people and doing stuff and washing your car and, just paying your bills and doing all the things. It's like maybe the beginning of the month, there's an intention to engage more with life. And as the month goes, there's more of a isolation or aloneness that reaches its peak. And now it's time to kind of get back into life in a certain way. I don't think you've been avoiding life all the way, but maybe there have been things that have been stopping you from showing up fully and really engaging and really being all in and really being invested in your life and your work and your solving your problems, right? Mercury direct in Leo in the 6th. And maybe now for Pisces, it's like, it's time to come back all the way into and really put your heart and soul into the things you care about the most and taking care of. I do feel like there's like a solving problem kind of approach to it.
But it does feel kind of like a fun, exciting change of energy for Pisces. So I like this for you. Let me know in a comment if it resonates. I always love hearing from you. I have a new course. It's called The Spiritual Path in the Ninth House. It teaches you how to read your ninth house from your sun, moon, and rising, and what all of that means about your spiritual path. Click the link below for more.